Okay.
Be
Hello,
professional,
hello,
Chris.
hello.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sir.
जादू मंतर जादू मंतर जादू मंतर You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be these clothing.
The queen is dead.
Hello, 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 and welcome to probably one of the more anticipated and or dreaded episodes that we do every year or sort of regularly, based on your presence or lack thereof of Schadenfreude that you experience towards the Bollywood industry at this point, which is, of course, our mid-year roundup, where we're kind of going through what is the state of the industry, which is at this point just a derogatory statement, one filled with exasperations at all times. But maybe there are some highlights that we can talk about. I mean, we've discussed a couple of films that the industry has put out in
21
sort of and Alpha in one
21
odd.
Alpha and one more, right? Dhurandhar. Not two.
We didn't do.
Or the
we didn't
two
do
we didn't
Dhruv.
do because of the wonderful response the first one got. Yeah.
So those are mainly the two films that we gave sort of independent discussions. Ikis was a live stream. Alpha you can find as an episode.
Yeah.
But this time we wanted to take a look more closely at two of the other films that have come out in the sort of intermediate period, which is Anubhav Sinha's Assi and Imtiaz Ali's Main Vaapas Aaunga, and also just talk about films at large that have come out in the period. The other big film is that we want to talk about is obviously Satluj, which has got a lot of discourse around it and is a pretty complicated text to talk about, but due to paucity of time, we're going to be giving that an episode of its own and a full-length discussion at a later date. But joining me for this endeavor are, of course, my crime-in partner to watching most of these really terrible films this year, Dhruv. Hi, Dhruv, how are you?
I'm basically this is the excuse I have for watching all these, essentially.
This is you passing it off as work and not just, letting your reputation degrade itself by watching garbage with me. But
Yeah.
also also a very special guest, film critic at the Indian Express, Anas Arif. Anas, how are you doing? Thank you so much for being here.
Hi guys. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dhruv. It's such a privilege to be here. I'm
Of
looking
course,
forward to a fun conversation.
let's hope it's
Let's
one.
hope it is, yeah. In terms of it'll be fun. It just I want to see how combative it gets. That's the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, we are the less of the ragey people for the people who listen to the podcast, but like, we can
Hmm.
also be mean sometimes, Dhruv and I.
Yeah, you
But
can listen to the last Bollywood episode for that, where I don't think I've shouted that much in my life. Like
which
this
was
is
when we were, of course, talking
Nadania.
about Dharmatics
Yeah.
Entertainment's Nadania.
Which will
But
Thermatics will be making a repeat appearance in one
appearance
section
here,
of
of
this.
course,
Yeah.
it is Dhruv's mortal enemy, so to speak, now.
Yeah. Basically.
But we'll begin with Assi. I'll just quickly introduce the film.
तो आपके मुताबिक ABCDE ने रेप नहीं किया।
मुझे उनके फेस याद नहीं सर।
ऐसे इंसिडेंट की फेसेस कोई कैसे भूल सकता है?
आपके साथ हुआ ऐसा कुछ?
पर्सनल हो रही हैं आप।
अब हो रही हूँ मैं पर्सनल, किसी को होना पड़ेगा पर्सनल।
ये पहचान नहीं पा रही? I feel sorry for her, लेकिन वो इनका फॉल्ट।
मेरा फॉल्ट है मैम। मैं 6 साल से जिन लड़कों को पढ़ा रही हूँ, उनमें से एक ने क्लास के व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में लिखा है कि उस दिन उसको इनवाइट क्यों नहीं किया किसी ने, वहाँ कार में।
It is directed obviously by Anubhav Sinha. It is written by Gaurav Solanki and Sinha. It stars Taapsee Pannu, Kani Kusruti, Revati, Manoj Pava, Kumud Mishra, Mohammad Zishan Ayub, among others. The cinematography is by Evan Mulligan. It's edited by Amarjit Singh, and the music is by Ranjit Barod. The summary courtesy IMDb is centers on unexplained sexual assault cases as an investigator and defense team fight to reveal shocking truths hidden beneath statistics and uncover the human cost behind the headlines. strange, which is a very strange summary for the film.
Yeah.
But I think for both of these films, I'm going to throw it to Anas first, if that's okay, because I think he is more positive on of in general with both of these films, and we like to open with the more positive remarks before it devolves into being a bitch session between Dhruv and I. I'm just
But
kidding. But
yeah,
Anas,
but just to sort of flag one thing up, we have discussed the entire post-Mulk filmography of Anubhav Sinha in one episode, and then Anek we did another episode, Anek, which I know no one sort of liked at the point where it released, and Bheed is another one we talked about. So we have discussed him fairly extensively, and out of the two filmmakers we are discussing extensively today, he is one of the filmmakers I think I'm decently a fan of, decently being the big part here. But anyways, we'll talk about Assi in detail. But now, yeah, Anas, please go ahead. What did you think of it? And all spoilers, by the way. There's no like
Okay,
restrictions
first
about
off.
all that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been given the tough task in that sense.
I'll be a little bit on your side with Assi. I mean, I am more
Okay.
sympathetic to Anubhav Sinha. So,
Okay.
but anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so like before Asi, just like as you were talking about post Mulk filmography of Anubhav Sinha, I've been a little on the fence with him. In when I'd watched Mulk back in the day, I
Hmm.
had quite liked it, but over the years it's not the film that I really admire in terms of its filmmaking.
Sure.
And for a lot of reasons, of course, what it's saying is something which
Hmm.
is very urgent, and I'm not that's of course important and all.
Hmm.
But that's what I've realized with Sinha is that he sort of compromises a lot of the things just for the sake of what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
So after a point of time, it just looks like that he's just, for a lack of a better word, lecturing, and he's just trying to tell us what to do, what not to do.
Hmm.
Um, and especially I didn't really like Bheed for that matter,
Sure.
uh, and even for that matter, the web series which he directed and created,
Which I've not
IC814.
seen. Chris, have you seen that? No.
I
Okay.
have not either. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's quite shoddily made, even
Hmm.
though it has a very wonderful scene featuring two of the greatest actors, living actors, Nasir and Pankaj Kapoor.
Okay.
It's a really wonderful scene. I mean, if it's worth it for that scene itself, it comes to right at the end of the series.
Sure.
But other than that, Anek was a largely a misfire. Article 15, I would like to believe was the was a fairly neat screenplay that he sort of
Yeah.
was going for in that sense. Thappad was the most interesting of the lot, but I
Hmm.
just felt that beyond a point he was repeating the same thing.
Sure.
He didn't really know what to do. It was just a case of like picking up a great log line or
Hmm.
like a great idea, but
Hmm.
then you really don't know what to do with it.
Hmm.
And something that has not really sit well with me
Hmm.
since Thappad is that he always goes for these parallel tracks. So like he
Hmm.
tries to create this ensemble story with multiple characters here and there, and they're going about their lives.
Hmm.
And a lot of it feels designed, and a lot of it feels that he's just trying to tick mark. Okay, let me talk about this also, then talk about
Hmm.
this also, then talk about this also.
Hmm.
But so when I sat down to watch Assi, I was a bit skeptical. Also, just like a brief disclaimer, I didn't like the trailer at all. I felt it was very on the nose, and I thought, oh, it's just Sinha being Sinha,
Hmm.
and he's again in lecture mode. But
That has
then,
just been his mode, I think, after Mulk.
yeah, actually,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I spoke to him and I interviewed him, also, I
Hmm.
asked him about this,
Hmm.
and I don't know, his answer was that he wants to cater to a larger section of people, and he was trying to just talk about how, say for instance, I mean, he actually said something which is really interesting, that
Hmm.
he's not really made a very purist film,
Hmm.
because he's actually compromising a lot on a lot of fronts, and you can
Okay.
see the compromises
As in terms
in
of filmmaking?
terms of filmmaking, in terms
Hmm.
of even the way a lot of it is very expository. a
Sure.
lot of it is like there are characters who are just there so that Sinha can voice what he wants to say, and
Sure.
etc etc.
Mm-hmm.
But but something which, when I started watching Assi, something that I really really liked was that firstly it's a very angry film,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you can see the anger, but it's also a film which is not consumed by its rage.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's an angry film, but it's really the it it's actually championing empathy, which
Yeah.
I felt was something very remarkable. And so like of course it begins as a story of a rape survivor's pursuit for
Yeah.
justice.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really really liked was that after a point of time it widens into something far more disturbing, and which is like an investigation or like an inquiry into the ecology of sexual violence itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really liked, was that how it's not just a story of a rape survivor,
Mm-hmm.
but it becomes a story about rape itself.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 the fact that crime was not treated as an isolated act,
Yeah.
but like a consequence of a larger society that manufactures it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the most intelligent thing that I felt that the screenplay by Solanki could
Mm-hmm.
do, that it moved away from the easy binaries of of like a survivor or like
Yeah.
a perpetrator.
Yeah.
And one of the best scenes, I arguably the best scene I think this year has
Mm-hmm.
been, like there is a moment in Assi when it's between Manoj Pawa and Supriya Pathak,
Mm-hmm.
when it's their son who is also a complicit in crime.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil that scene because it's a really, and you really get to see two actors
Yeah.
just making the most
So
of it.
her only scene in the film, actually, Supriya
Yeah,
Pathak,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Supriya Pathak's only
Mm.
scene in the film.
Mm.
And then Manoj Pawar as always is so good, and you
Yeah.
just really get to see the psyche of the accused's parents also.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way especially Supriya has performed that scene, and she's
Yeah.
talking about uh sexism which is so ingrained in every day,
Yeah.
and how she's both like again a victim but also like a perpetrator of that
Yeah.
larger patriarchal world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And and how for her it all boils down to that her home or the happiness of that home shouldn't, like they should be in equilibrium, it should
Yeah.
not be hampered with.
Yeah.
And that was really the scene, and it comes quite early in the film, sometime in the first half.
Yeah.
I think so. And that really got me in, and that made me feel that okay, Sinha has been trying to do this for a very long time. He's been trying to have a holistic view, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what he's been trying to do when he goes for multiple subtracts and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But here he's able to do that. Here he's going for a 360-degree view,
Yeah.
where he's not just like just focusing on the rape survivor, because in that way it would have been just like another film like Pink, for that matter, which
Yes.
also stars Tapsi Pannu.
Tapsi. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a film which is very aware of the world it inhabits, its misogyny, its evasions,
Yeah.
its institutions which are sort of designed, say, less to deliver justice, but
Mm-hmm.
to exhaust the people who are
Yeah.
trying to demand it. So
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I really, really liked.
Yeah.
And but again, the thing that I really loved about Anubhav was that, especially in today's Bollywood, which is so much driven by vengeance and so much driven by
Mm-hmm.
hyper masculinity, and so like you in today's Bollywood you can really feel the hatred.
Yeah.
It's so palpable.
Yeah.
and 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 then to see a film like this, where he's also talking about vigilante justice, and
Yeah.
he's also trying to interrogate like the notion of an eye for an eye.
Yeah. It's a
And
kangaroo court notion also, right? Like the whole idea
yeah,
of holding up a kangaroo court and the online judgments passed essentially by
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like basically all rapists should be hanged.
Yeah.
And and again I felt that that was a very very smart move,
Sure.
because and practically that is the difference I feel in, say, like today's, I don't want to use India, but like
No, no,
today's
please say
society.
it's fine. Yeah, yeah, it's
No,
okay.
what I want to say, I mean, in a lot of ways we have only devolved, so that's why
Yeah.
I don't want to say
That's
it. But
okay. We are very open about how rubbish some of us think the place is at this moment. I am speaking from a safe distance now, so I can say. But I was in Delhi for the past 4 months,
no,
so
but
yeah,
basically what I want to say is that, say for instance, like 10 years down the 10 years ago, when Pink released,
yeah,
and it was all about no means no and consent and
yeah,
etc etc. And when
yeah,
I think so, I remember Pink released and it was followed by Sri Devi's Mom in the same year or the year after, or
mm,
something like that.
yeah,
And all these films were basically not necessarily Pink, but a film like Mom or etc etc. A lot of films
yeah,
like that were basically asking for the blood of the
yes,
rapists, like.
yeah,
Uh, and that's what we feel. That's what I feel, that there's a change now, that
mm-hmm,
with this entire discourse about capital punishment
mm,
and about reformation. I'm not making any big statements about like giving chances to rapists and all of that, but
yeah,
just the fact that, like as I said, the film, it never sacrifices its capacity for empathy,
yeah,
and it's trying to look everything through a nuanced gaze rather
yeah,
than through the binary of what is good, what is bad,
yeah,
what is right and what is wrong.
mm,
And that's what I felt was something which was really good. And especially there are one or two moments. One moment is between Zishan Ayub's character, who is so good in the film,
oh, he's
and
terrific. Yeah, mm,
and his son, when his son is playing with that toy gun
yeah,
and he's trying to fire and all of that.
mm-hmm,
And and then Vinay gently takes away the gun from him, and he
mm,
just tries to remind him how like like this has its own language of violence.
yeah,
And like, say, which I also wrote, I remember writing this in my piece, that
mm-hmm,
violence rehearsed is also violence remembered.
yeah,
And it's a very small, simple exchange between a father and a
yeah,
son,
yeah,
but it also contains the entire moral architecture of
mm-hmm,
Assi. And then of course the ending of the film is so haunting,
mm.
because it ends with a child seeing public shooting,
Like a
and it ends.
vertical like they turn the axis of the camera, right? I think it's like
Yeah,
it's flipped over into a sort of
yeah,
disorienting
exactly.
angle. Yeah, yeah,
And I think so that's what. And now I really feel that Mulk released in 2018, and it's going
yeah,
to be a decade soon.
hmm,
And in this entire decade,
hmm.
finally I feel Sinha has found his voice, which
Interesting.
is
Yeah,
he's, after trying, and of course after a
mm-hmm.
lot of experimentation,
Yeah,
hitting hits and misses and etc
mm-hmm.
etc, he's finally I felt that he finally found his voice with Assi, and specifically with scenes like this, and how he's trying to tell you that it's like, what is the kind of world we are leaving behind,
Sure.
for, say, for like, say, that young kid
Yeah,
who
yeah,
is who is also a kid who, say for instance, or like kids like him are going to watch films like Dhurandhar, etc etc,
hmm.
on their television screens,
Yeah,
and and what are they going to take away from them?
yeah.
uh so that's what I felt, that it's a oh, I have taken a lot of time.
No, no,
But
that's perfectly. But it's a great. I think it's a great sort of point of view in expressing the triumphs of the film, which, and I think I am largely in agreement with you. Sorry, Chris, I'm heading, and then you can just
No, no, please go.
piggyback off because I think you are the least fond of this, or am I the more least? Rating wise, I guess
I
I
mean,
am the least, but
yeah,
I have a
numbers
little
wise,
bit
but I
more.
think, yeah,
I think I just
yeah.
have a little bit more admiration for certain things. So what I do like what I actually see whatever Anas said. I totally agree with Sinha's intentions in doing all that. And I think one of the things there were two big sort of notes I had taken at least. One was that one is that. It's interesting to see Sinha turn from sort of righteous anger to something more closer to despair. because this is a much more despairing film in many ways, which is why I think the ending resolution again feels more false than usual with the court case, which we'll talk about, because I think the court case is a bit of a joke in the way it sort of transpires. So I think what he's done is what you're saying. He's definitely going for the 360-degree approach. And I think he has been trying to do that, at least the 360 degrees approach he's trying to do, I think, since Thappad. I think he's been
Yeah.
trying to do it at least. I think Article 15 is very much about, like,
Yeah.
caste, and then that the first one is about Islamophobia. So
Yeah.
you've got these big things, and then I think since Thappad onwards, even Anek, I know
Yeah.
Anek is an incredibly flawed film, and
Yeah.
I think it's got I think there are similar issues in Assi
Bhel.
that are in Anek also, in the
Acha.
sense that it's going for a lot, and to me, doing that dilutes a lot of the particularities of a bunch of stuff. So I see some resemblances there in this. I think it's very honorable to position this as a very overt anti Dhurandhar, anti animal. There is one dialogue. I have not seen Dhurandhar, so okay. I guess the red screen is the one thing which I've heard is like a sort of countermeasure,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and of course the whole notion about animal. I know there's a very pointed sort of, अगर हमें जलानी होती दुनिया तो हम जला चुके होते, but हमें जलानी नहीं है, which is a very sort of
Yeah.
pointed dig at the animal, whatever noise that was playing at the end of that film.
Yeah.
But so I admire that. The scene you're saying about Supriya Pathak and Manoj Bava, I think, is a very good scene in conception. I think I think the problems you have with Thappad, I would say I don't have with Thappad. And I think whatever the
Okay.
triumphs you're seeing here, I saw them more in Thappad. I think that's my
Okay.
big
Okay.
sort of just tweaking, in fact, of all the things you've said. I think, to me, apply more well in Thappad, because I think what you're saying, it is more designed than Assi, because I think Assi feels a little too, I don't want to say scattershot, but it feels splattered. Like, it's like a sort of project which is sort of thrown across the board and like allowed to be like that. So I think what you're saying about the 360 thing strikes also more, because it feels a little less, connected to each other in a sort of, in a way which I think Thappad does overtly. So so I've written in it entire academic paper on Thappad, actually. So
Wow.
I've done a fair bit of sort of work on that. So I was looking at the opening scene of Thappad, and the opening scene being the one which, to me, that is designed, but that is the sort of thing I think you need, where you identify a locus point, which is the relationship between a couple in that, and then you sort of move outwards from it. I think this one starts from a point and then just zigzags into different directions, and that, so to me, that became an issue, in the sense that when it went to the child's point of view, I wanted it to stick to the child's point of view. When it went to the lawyer's point of view, I wanted it to stick to the lawyer's point of view. When it went to the accused point of view, I wanted it to stick. So to me, I was consistently craving more engagement in each aspect. And so what happened is I got snippets. Some of those snippets I think are worthy. I think the stuff with the kid is quite decent. I like the child's point of view angle of the whole thing. I thought if you actually apply that to the whole film, that would be quite wonderful, I would say. Like, I think
Yeah.
it reminds me a lot of very lofty comparison, but Asghar
Yeah.
Farhadi's A Separation, which
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
has a
Okay.
similar sort of child's point of view, looking at a crumbling marriage, but in that it sort of sees a lot of things happening around them. So to me, that perspective would have probably held water. I thought the court sections were tacky. I thought they were very
Okay.
oddly executed in the way they are going for this sort of poetics of justice, and I was just like, I don't know if this naivety of poetics I can buy in this context, considering how you want to position this narrative as a despairing narrative. And in the end, she does end up winning the case, which I'm like, really? Like, I didn't like the way you argumentatively put forth this case. I was like, there is no way in which, in this film's world, Kanika Sruti's character will attain any sort of justice. So to me,
Hmm.
it has the issue of the false ending, but which I think is there with most of his films, because they have to end on a sort of false happy note. But I thought Tapsi, this is the first time I found her like really iffy, like almost throughout her scenes with Kumud Mishra, which I think is the big contestation point for a lot of people. That whole arc,
Yeah.
I think,
Oh, come on,
is
yeah.
because I was reading a little bit about it, and a lot of people didn't like it, and then people who liked the film really did like the Kumud Mishra sort of,
Yeah.
that angle of it. I think again, in theory, I like it more so than in execution. I just think it feels so oddly rammed in throughout the narrative and at odd junctures that I just was like, it's interesting that you're going for all this. I found it so odd that the way the film moved between these segments never felt cohesive. Like they felt very point making to me, which is odd considering for you it actually felt the or opposite way around, right? Because for you it felt more natural than a thappad, where it is more designed. But to me, the design actually allows the naturalism to seep in somehow, because you are automatically creating this connection between families, and then from those sort of connections you sort of see the dynamics spill out. So to me it's that the internal drama of Thappad made more sense to me, and because it was focusing on something very micro, I thought it helped that Anubhav Sinha was sort of honing in on the micro. This is very macro in its approach also. It's going for big things, big ideas, big deliveries, which is fine.
Yeah.
I know his mode of delivery is unsubtle, and which is again not a problem to me, at least if you're committed to it. And I think if you have a framework as a courtroom drama, or you have an investigation, less so an investigation thriller, but a courtroom drama is the perfect, I think, excuse for you to be loud, didactic, and whatever you want to be, because you at least have like the framework for that thing to happen. But this is the first time I felt like your genre, you were decent at melding genre and social message films. I think you've weakened at the genre aspect only, now that you've committed entirely to the social message aspect. So I felt the filmmaking to me was iffy on those angles, which just hasn't been for like a thappad. I would say even Article 15 is a very decently made film. It has a lot of flaws, fundamental flaws even, but yeah, I think I struggled with Assi in a way which I didn't expect to, because I've liked his work in patches, but I have appreciated it. But I have to agree with Anas wholeheartedly on Mohammad Zishan Ayub, who I think is terrific. I could have had the whole movie be about him and Kani Kustuti, actually. I thought both of them were terrific in their. They have a very limited amount of time spent together in the film in a sort of confined space, but I would have loved to see them more of them, just because I think they make a very well realized couple. They don't feel a sort of oddly put together couple. They feel very natural in their next to each other. But yeah, sorry, I've also gone on my
No, no, it was really
entire
interesting.
tirade. Yeah. So
No,
let's
yeah.
do
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting how it kind of plays between the two of you in sort of two different senses. One is definitely that I'm less familiar with Sinha's work. I've seen Thappad, Bheed, and this in his post-Mulk sort of filmography. I've not seen the
Yeah.
rest of it. And also, like before we started recording, we talked about, for example, like intention versus execution, right? And where you guys give more sympathies. I am somewhere in the middle where I am quite sympathetic to intentions, but that sympathy is short. It can be quite short-lived if the execution veers off too much from where I see the intentions lead. So I can easily switch between the two based on how the text works out. So for me, I think there are two scenes which are kind of indicative of my problems with Assi. I think one is the opening 20 minutes. Now
Oh yeah,
this,
this is
or
the
like 15
yo-yo thing you
minutes.
said, right? Yeah.
Now this I can openly admit that this is a me problem, and I've
Mhm.
mentioned this before. I think the last time we had a major discussion on this was, I think, when we were talking about Alfonso Cuarón's disclaimer, and the Brady Corvais, the brutalist. But I am
Yeah.
personally very sensitive to depictions of sexual violence. I think it's very difficult. Again, portraying itself is already a very difficult thing, but if you choose to portray it, then portraying it is very sensitive. I think one,
Mm.
because it has constantly the risk of veering into voyeurism and kind of that kind of a visual pleasure. On the other hand, it can, it can trigger for a lot of people who have trauma related to sexual violence. So like I'm very sensitive about how it is depicted, and to me, I found the opening to be quite tasteless for the length that you sit through the this thing and how the violence is depicted. Now I
So
get
how much we
um,
are in her point of view, do you mean?
how much we are in the scene
In the
itself. Like
car.
I am
Okay.
some. in the car. I'm someone who thinks like some of the most impactful depictions of sexual violence are ones that don't show it at all. Especially when you go into a courtroom drama. One of the things that I think is very interesting about the courtroom as a setting itself is the fact that it's all testimony. You don't have access to what happened. And that is what makes the courtroom interesting, which is when you don't have direct footage or you are relying on someone's testimony of what happened in the courtroom, then what is the relationship of that and the footage of what happened or the knowledge of the details of what happened, right? So to me, I just, from a filmmaking perspective, I found it very uncomfortable to watch, and I was not just staying in the car for that long, sort of
Uncomfortable
sitting
in a not productive way, just to
in a not
clarify.
like I get what Sinha is trying to go for. Like there's this sort of repeated motif of counting, and they're trying to show that this the cruelty of the people there. But I sometimes it feels like that can take you either out of the film, or the spectacle itself can overtake what it is going for, because you are more focused on this is the spectacle I'm watching than this is what the film is trying to depict. I think that separation can happen from the text, which I find personally very uncomfortable in a not productive way. And I think the second scene for me that's quite indicative is in the third act, there is one reveal with a child in the courtroom. Where this girl, and this girl
forgot
is
about
essentially
that.
so I think this scene to me is most indicative of my problems with Assi as a film. But in this scene, they're having the courtroom sort of argument, and a child is brought onto a witness stand for one of the accused, who's accused daughter, and she's asked if she would think her father would commit rape or sexual assault, and she's this is by the defending lawyer, and Tapsi Pannu's character tells her not to say anything, and she says yes with my mother. I saw him do it to my mother, and then it becomes this whole brief tirade into marital, rape and sexual violence in marriage. And to me, it is so tacked on. It is like this, like Anas, you were saying that your critique of earlier Sinha films was that they feel bullet point. To me, this is a proper bullet point checklist film. That it's now time for this social issue. It is now time for this social issue. The Kumud Mishra arc is to me entirely tacked on. You could cut it from the film and it would make absolutely no difference at all, because it has no bearing on, to me,
No,
other.
but okay, I'll just slightly push back against this in the sense that
Yeah.
but the whole idea in some ways about SC is about narratives more than the actual thing, after a point, which is the whole idea where they're like, ki, you are shifting the focus away from the main narrative into this narrative.
Which is the
Which you
problem of
think the film
itself.
does also. Okay.
Is again, and I am like you were saying, Dhruv, I am more sympathetic to a film like Thappad, and I think what we'll talk about here and in the next film is kind of the relationship between the personal and the political, which at a filmic level becomes the relationship between the drama and your social message, right? You can't let your social message subsume your drama.
You can, I think, but in a different. I think your mode needs to be different. I think.
Or okay, I will caveat it for this mode. This mode of storytelling, if you have to have it be effective, and I think I'm not fond of this whole idea of lecturing the audience. Like it to me sometimes feels very like you're talking down to them, and I get that our audiences are quite questionable.
Did you feel talked down to in a way?
I definitely felt talked down to in especially the courtroom section of the film majorly.
Okay.
But
I didn't feel that, so I have to be very clear about that.
Again, that's a me. Sure, that's
no, it's not a you
coming
issue.
into it,
It's just one of those things, because I know I'm in agreement with you on the other film
Other
of being
film,
talked
of
down
course.
to. So yeah.
But no, so the problem is that Thappad for me works because it constructs the political through the personal drama. And so you get these really, like, you get fleshed out characters, you get their dynamics, and then you understand why things matter. In Assi, you get like the opening and whatever you get little bit with Muhammad Zishan Ayub and Kani Kusurti is interesting, and it's where the film is most potent. But then it kind of, the film almost gets distracted to me, and once Tapsi Pannu comes in, the whole thing gets consumed. The political becomes far more important than the personal, and there's a lot of idea about statistics versus interpersonality. The harm experienced by an individual cannot be at the behest of statistics, and statistics minimizes all of that. But I feel like the film falls into the trap of focusing much more on the statistics and losing sight of the real pain that Kani Kusurti's characters goes through, which again becomes really kind of neatly tied up by the ending and you also get the tying up of the Manoj Pava slash Kumud
Oh
Mishra
yeah, because
arc
there's a
there.
point where Manoj Pahwa just vanishes, and I'm like, where is Manoj Pahwa? Like, did he just play that role till then, and then he comes in the end, and I was like,
Huh.
oh, okay, so of course, so it's like one of those things. So
Absolutely. And
interesting.
again, about Pava, the Pava's Pathak scene, which again you guys were talking about, I think I agree with Dhruv that it's a very interesting scene on paper. Fundamentally, it doesn't work because these are not characters. Like
Hmm.
Pathak might get like one scene and she's good in that scene, but
Hmm.
I am not able to have an investment in these characters in their lives for that moment to shine the way it might in a film like Thappad, where there are similar
This
kind of
is the Ratna
interactions.
Pathak Shah and with his sisters, of course, and Kumud Mishra scene. You mean in Thappad,
Yes,
where
in
she
Thappad.
reveals to her what her dreams were and what how they were
Absolutely.
subsumed by the duty she had to do for her husband,
uh,
essentially, right?
husband, yeah, domestic
Yeah,
duty.
yeah.
So I think fundamentally that's what happens with Assi is that all the critiques you guys have of his like sort of in between work post Thappad and before
Hmm.
this, for me it continues into Assi of being really tacked on and being kind of subsumed by like I get the anger and the despair. Like to me, even the red screen is
It's not
it's
bad
really
actually. I mean,
it's
it's a
not
bit of a
bad.
flashy technique, but I mean, but
Yeah,
it's
but
fine. I
it
didn't mind
to
it.
me it feeds into the performativity of the whole matter. Like I feel like the investment in the drama is so minimal that Sinha is kind of pushing it aside to like face the camera and then read his list of grievances, and
Hmm.
this becomes another way of which that is again dramatized and sensationalized almost in a sense, which I think this film should in a sense is trying to oppose but is kind of feeding into. So it's some way I understand both of your both sympathies for it and critiques of it, but I just have a certain distance from it, which means that I'm sympathetic to the intentions, but I am very iffy of its executions, which is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all three have gone on like a proper monologue. We have gone on Anubhav Sinha mode essentially. We are in a courtroom drama and we are doing like
Yeah.
Yeah.
our final monologues for some reason. But no, I mean like I know we all have sort of mentioned our own points of view and the differences actually because it's fascinating to me that you know Anna saw and it's interesting of course because in that 360 approach you can see a sort of multiplicity, what is it called, multiplicity of narratives, of perspectives being something which feels like it's overwhelming and good actually for a narrative like this because it's an issue which isn't limited to a single person. It is expanding and affects a lot of people. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Anas, any thoughts?
Not really. It was really insightful, genuinely, to hear both you guys. I just feel I think so it boils down to the structure of the film and what
yeah,
Sinha was trying to do.
mhm,
Uh, like I bought more into it.
yeah,
I was on board with the evolving perspectives of the film and how
hmm,
it was just not too focused and it
yeah,
was jumping from one end to another end to another end to another end.
yeah,
Also because I, I'll be very honest.
hmm,
Uh, as I was telling when I saw the trailer of it, or for that matter, that tacky poster of Tapsi Pannu with that ink or whatever
yes,
on her face and all of that,
yeah,
I just couldn't stand it, and I
mhm,
just felt as we have been talking about that here again, Sinha is
yeah,
yet again back at what he does. He thinks the
yeah,
best.
hmm,
Uh,
Yeah.
and then I also felt that there's already been so many films, shows. I remember, I don't know if you've seen, there's this Sakshi Tanwar show, Mai. Yeah, it's called
I've
Mai
heard of
on
it. Yeah,
Netflix. Yeah,
hmm,
it's also about sexual violence and
hmm,
avenging the rapists
yeah,
and etc. etc. So I just felt that there's already so much of fatigue within
yes,
this genre,
yeah,
and all majorly all of them are trying to say the same stuff.
yeah,
So my point of view was that what is it that now Sinha is trying to bring? And
hmm,
looking back, as I was saying now, a lot of the courtroom mechanism of Mulk feel very, very. I mean, it was always too melodramatic and too over top, on
yeah,
the nose and over the top. But
yeah,
in retrospect, it just feel very, very performative.
yeah,
I especially a lot of Rishi Kapoor moments in that
hmm,
courtroom. etc. So I just felt that, oh, he's going back to the courtroom, and I've
Yeah.
always felt that courtroom drama is not to look down upon any other genre, but
Yeah.
like it's a very tough genre to crack
You
because
like
it's very
Chaitanya
easy.
Tamhane's quote.
Yeah,
So I mean I was
that,
like if you don't like the genre, I think you like I mean I love Chaitanya Tamhane's both films I really love. So
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, okay, makes sense because that is the anti courtroom drama.
Yeah,
As
and I've
anti
always
yeah.
felt that it's a very easy genre in that sense, because
Hmm.
whatever you want to say, you can just have like long monologues.
Yeah.
I like last night only I tried watching Ikka starring Sunny Deol and Akshay Khanna, and
Yeah.
it's just that my laptop stopped working
Okay, so
because
your laptop broke because of it. We're gonna
it
run with
couldn't take
that.
it
Yeah.
after the point.
Yes.
But then it's quite easy because all you have to do, all you have to really do is just like you just have to give them monologues after monologues and like
Yeah.
objection, my lord, and then stuff,
Yeah. No,
stuff
it's
like
also,
that.
I'm actually surprised why there aren't more courtroom dramas released regularly because they're cheaper to make than usual. You just need to construct or just go to one location and make it like restricted to that also. Like even from an
Yeah,
economics point of view, it's a cheaper proposition. You can make it close to filmed theater if you want to be
yeah,
very disingenuous about it. So,
yeah.
it's interesting why it's not a consistent mode actually. Ikka is the which is the last one that came before Assi.
I can't.
Uh,
Jolly LB3 or
oh
something.
yeah, that also was there which I didn't see. So yeah, but
Yeah,
oh that's also this year, right?
it was last year, I
Or was it
think so.
last
Or
year?
this
Okay.
year, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
yeah, but the point being that it's very like you can do a lot of gimmicks with it.
yeah.
Make it extremely theatrical. You
Hmm.
can have like a lot of hero entry shots, like slow mo walks, which are a lot of them. I just saw 30 minutes of it, and I was like, oh my god, can you really move beyond this? And so. Just that I was like, why is he going back to the genre
Hmm.
again? And then he's
Hmm.
perhaps trying to take an easy route, and he's
Yeah,
again going to lecture us down, and now he's going to do it under the garb of a genre.
yeah.
There's just like he did in Mulk.
No, I think, but from that angle, I think honest, the de-dramatize. There is an effort to
Yeah, exactly. That's
de-dramatize
what I
on there.
like. I
Yeah.
could see an
Hmm.
evolution
Yeah.
from the Mulk Sinha to right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because eventually the film is not a courtroom drama. Like I would
Yeah.
not categorize it as a courtroom
Yeah,
drama,
it's
but from
actually
the looks of
very.
it.
Yeah, I thought it would be like it'll shift entirely into that mode, but it's very patchily actually there because there's a lot of stuff outside
Yeah,
going on
outside
always.
of it,
So
that's happening and all of
yeah,
that. Yeah.
so which is why I think it would be interesting if it didn't have that happy ending, which is the odd sticking point to me. But to be honest, that's the sticking point in all of his
Honestly,
films.
honestly, I'll be really very honest. I don't. I was so engrossed with everything that was happening outside the courtroom
Hmm.
that I don't even I do. It's just now you saying it, but I
Hmm.
can't recollect that it was a happy end. Like she really.
So after the vertical, which is the good shot to end it on, is the shot of the child looking at the sort of violence that
Yeah,
happens in
I
front
just
of him.
remember that because that's such an
Yeah,
haunting shot.
yeah,
I
and
don't
then
remember them getting caught or getting away from it.
no. Next shot is of them walking together back to their home happily with some music playing, which
Oh
And
also
there's
yeah,
like a
fuck.
shot
Oh
of
yeah, fuck. Yeah,
Mohammed
yeah. I
Zishan
mm,
remember.
Ayub
Sorry. Yeah.
leaving and Kani
no, you
Kuchuti
can abuse.
walking
It's fine. That's
alone.
no problem.
Oh yeah. Now I remember.
Yeah,
Now I
yeah.
remember. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, yeah. So
it
it's
shows
very
end
brief.
credits or
So
something.
it's one of those. If you reverse the order of the shots, it would be interesting. It's like what Badhai though had this weird, interesting thing where it had two endings almost, where one is imagined and one is the real ending or something like that. It had like a variation on endings, which was quite interesting.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
we are like the whole contradictory ending thing where one contradicts the other, which is a very interesting way to end a film like this, I think. Too. But
Yeah.
anyways, but it's to me it's also I think you also began by saying that so it's strange because his Assi was a bomb, a box office bomb, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so it's interesting to me. Is he now in a sort of space? Is Sinha now in a space where he's now not willing to kowtow to sort of generic conventions or even sort of and it's interesting to me that you guys said that the TV show didn't work out because I think the movies he's directing would be better suited to TV shows at this point because I'm like if this is a TV show I think it would be much more it would feel novelistic in a sort of says the person who doesn't read novels but I know ironic it is but yeah I mean in that sense I would feel that if he has more space to explore these things, he would probably do better. But apparently, the whole thing was a dud. The hijack show he did, right?
Yeah, I see 814, yeah.
That's where what Dia Mirza was also in it, right? I think.
It was not a dud because there was a huge controversy that happened after that.
Because of the
So it got
altering
a
of
lot of
facts and all that stuff was that over.
I don't even remember some controversy
Sure,
that had happened. Exactly. I don't
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
there was some like major discourse about it, right?
Yeah, like something on the similar lines like Tandav had happened. I
Okay,
don't remember exactly.
okay,
Something
okay. Is it
something
still
had to.
online or has it been
Yeah, you
taken
can
off?
find it. I don't even remember because the show was
Acha,
so
okay.
forgettable. I don't even remember the
Okay, fine.
discourse around it. But it was something which was very major.
Yeah.
And then I remember
Yeah.
Sinha got very angry at a press conference, and then or something like that. Even Nasir was sitting with him, and something had happened.
Okay.
But yeah, it was again. It was a very forgettable show.
Yeah, I think it was about like the pseudonyms of the people
Yeah,
who
like they were
hijacked
Muslims or
the planes,
non-Muslim names or something like that. Yeah.
which is accurate to the I think that happened, but people were still mad. It
Yeah,
was very
somebody
Oh,
tweeted
okay,
or
random.
okay.
something like that. Like it happens all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean, see,
and
to that end, I guess in my head, I would admire him. He is, I think, one of the few filmmakers who is very confidently at least going out and like putting up a middle finger. So I'm like, sure, like in a very sort of shaky voice, I would say sure, in the sense that at this point, I understand to combat shouting, you have to shout. But to me, it just I'm like it I don't respond to it at this point. I think maybe it happened with that Ayushman. What is the Chris? Please plug in the whole name of that thing.
The Ayushmann Khurrana Social Message Industrial Complex, yes.
oh
Yes,
god,
that. So it had
yeah,
an expiry date. This might
yeah,
start to have an expiry date, is my point, because it is a template
Yeah.
which is has that wear and tear feel to it, has started to appear, though in the context of what the cinema is coming out, his cinema is a sort of worthy counter, I think, to a lot of it, which I think even if it doesn't work for me, I'd be like, sure, like, do whatever you want. I might not be a fan of it in whatever way you're doing. Also, sorry, I just have to mention this because it bothered the hell out of me. What is with that background score when Kumud Mishra's track starts? I was like, I am
oh,
sorry, I'm very sensitive to background scores in any case, but I was like, Kumud, you don't need to use a background score for Kumud Mishra. He's a very good actor. You don't need the background score to emote for him. He can do it well on his own. I'm just like, just chuck it out. I'm like, don't use that. It was really odd, and the music even was odd. I think even Thappad had a couple of songs, and the
hmm.
songs in his other films have been decently integrated. I felt here, I just felt it was a bit too like we have to put one song so that we can put it on Spotify or YouTube or whatever. So it felt a little too like I thought he, as you were saying, Anas, that he said that he compromised. I thought this was made a little bit too much in a hurry only. I thought it needed a little bit more time to sort of slightly become more polished. I'm not saying to like make it designed, but like to slightly rein in, like chop like just polish it a little bit to make it seem a little bit more cohesive, not in a sort of it all makes sense, but in a sort of it feels like it's unfolding in multiple zones. I would now my other highbrow comparison is The Secret Agent, which I think is one of the great films of last year. So, which is a film which feels like it's got multiple narratives going on through it, and you feel lost in them. So, I would say that's a sort of counter to me at least. But anyways,
Yeah.
my highbrow thing we can check out. Um, yeah.
No, but I
Should
think fundamentally it's about a certain like consistency to it, right? Like just to me, like we were just the last thing I wanted to say was that the courtroom section that we talked about. And to me, fundamentally, like the problem becomes that it is that like you said, Anna, so like, one of the things you can do with the courtroom section is to lecture. The other thing you can do is to go to the poetics. And the problem is that the both are to me two extremes of the wrong way to treat the courtroom section, especially if you are going to end up if you're actually putting some value on what happens in the court, because obviously the film ends with Revati sentence, or like you don't get the sentencing, but
Yeah,
Revati
I
plays a judge.
genuinely thought it will end in a sort of no, nothing is gotten, justice is denied. I thought it
Exactly, right.
just heading
Because
towards
so
that.
much of it is about, the difficulty of sexual assault as a crime also, because it becomes such a he said, she said thing.
Hmm.
It's difficult, especially we've got, tampering with evidence and this and that. It's always such a difficult thing to bring to justice.
Yeah.
So much of
It
Tapsi
has
Pannu's antics.
almost the comic absurdity of a. Have you seen Talwar, Chris? I don't think you have.
No, I
You
haven't.
should. It's very good. Meghna Gulzar's Talwar. So yeah, it has this almost comic absurdity of that a little bit in this.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, she starts going towards the poeticism. There's that whole sequence towards the end of the film where the defense puts up all these like lack of evidence that Tapsi Pannu has, and she goes, I accept this and I accept. The point is, and the way that she's playing to, and you frame Revati as well, it makes her look like a bad judge, not someone who understands the truth, but and is kind of because there's a certain idea that there is a barrier, there's a sort of degree of evidence that is required, etc., for justice to be carried out. The entire point is that Kumud Mishra's character is wrong because vigilante justice is being carried out because innocent until proven guilty.
Hmm.
And the dynamic between Revati and Tapsi Pannu becomes more like, oh, they have decided that the people are guilty regardless of whether there's evidence or not. Thus, she
I
gives, so
mean,
it's a really
that would be
strange way
quite
to.
interesting if you play into it as a sort of
Sure, but
overlap. Yeah.
I don't think the film is introspective or aware of the dynamics, sort of recreating the very things that it is critiquing in a sense of. So I think that is where it kind of, like, for me, it's that like you said, it's a kind of consistency that is sort of lacking. Yeah, but anything else? Otherwise, we can move on to the next pitching session.
Next
Yeah.
pitching session. Nice.
No, I'm
How
really,
much
really
how much
sorry,
can we
Anasur.
bitch about this? I think Chris and me have
So again,
exhausted it by ourselves, like
we
talking.
literally we were supposed to watch Backrooms right after we watched Main Vaapas Aaunga, but there's like a half an hour turnover, and like Dhruv looked at me and he went,
ये प्यार जहर की तरह होता है पता है इसकी एक भी बूंद अंदर रह गई ना तो ये आखिरी समय में चैन से मरने भी नहीं देता
"Can we not?" I was like, "Okay, we'll not." And we spent the rest of the day. I mean, you spent the rest of the day bitching about it. It took me some time to come around to disliking the film, but
Yeah.
the next film on the chopping block, as it were, is
For
Imtiaz
two of
Ali's,
us, by the way, let's not
for
throw
two of
Anas
us, obviously. Yes, yes.
because everyone loves this movie, mostly everyone. So I don't want to. We are the odd ones out here. We are not,
Not everybody's been raving about this
yes,
film. It has
and it's
had a
done
like
well in a sort of resurgent
impressive
way, which
turnover,
yeah,
of having a week first week, and
not
then
weak, pretty
the
bad, like first,
the
yeah,
word of mouth being so good that it has
yeah.
progressively earned better.
Hmm.
But the film is directed by Imtiaz Ali. It's written by Imtiaz Ali and Nainita Mehtani. It stars Diljit Dosanjh, Nasruddin Shah Sharwari, Vedang Rena, amongst others. Cinematography is by Sylvester Fonseca, edited by Aarti Bajaj. Music is by A.R. Rahman. And the summary courtesy IMDb is a story of love, longing, and belonging rooted in partition era migration. Examines memory, nostalgia, and emotional ties to home and loved ones, exploring how the past shapes identity and sustains the human spirit across generations.
What are these
Who
plots?
is right? Who is writing these? I don't know. These feel more like your Wikipedia summaries and not
Yeah,
your lines for like the film. But we
yeah.
read what IMDb gives us. Obviously not sponsored by them. But again, Anas, I'm going to have to throw it to you because
Unless
if
you want
we
to
were
hear us bitch first, and then you can
bitch, yeah,
then you
just
can sort of rebut us, because that we can switch the order of that if you want.
Yeah,
If
cool.
that's
I
good.
have no problems. Yeah,
Okay,
genuinely.
fine.
Yeah, but
Chris,
that
before you
works.
guys start,
yeah,
Yeah.
just one word,
yeah.
not one word, but like just what I really wanted to say was that I absolutely disliked Diljit's track with
Okay.
Banita.
So, which
I
I think is gonna be the
he's
common, yeah.
yeah. You guys can start from that if you
Okay,
want.
yeah. I mean that I
And I don't
think.
know what was wrong with Banita there,
Oh,
and
I have no idea.
and
I
I
was
was
like,
just thinking about it actually
yeah.
before this pod, that I was
Hmm.
thinking about it in the last two films she has not
Hmm.
spoken a word. Like she was mute in Sardar Udham, and in October she was
She's
on the
mute in
deathbed.
October also. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she's on the
not
deathbed.
mute,
So
but
I
like,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
she started speaking for the first time, and I was seeing her on the screen.
You
I was like,
understood.
are they taking some revenge from her, or does she really speak like that?
No, I think that's an accent given to her, 100%.
Yeah,
There is no way
Possibly
that's
the worst accent work I
yeah,
have seen in a
yeah.
very long time.
yeah. Anyways,
I don't know about if they really wanted to dub Nargis and Rockstar, but they really had.
They
They
should
really
have.
should have dubbed her.
or just not given her the accent. I have a theory of why she's given the accent. But anyways, we'll get to it. That track, I think the most I have eye rolled in a cinema in the longest time. I have genuinely been aghast at the things said in that track, said in the most po-faced manner. And I mean, I think Diljit is pretty decent in general, but he is not served well at all in Main Vaapas Aaunga. And I don't think anyone will be in that role, to be very fair to them. Anyways, Chris, take over.
No. You get
Please don't.
the.
I have like five caveats, okay? I'm not going to start with that. Please start.
Okay. I will not because I have already been harassed on Twitter because
Yeah.
apparently having Tismar Khan as one of my favorite films makes that I'm not allowed to say one word against Main Vaapas Aaunga. But yeah, it's interesting that when I went in for the film, and especially like I'm very mixed on Imtiaz Ali. I think Jab We Met is one of the foundational romantic texts of
The
the
thing you will
2000s.
always blame for your love for Shahid Kapoor, right?
I will continue to blame for the sympathies that I have towards Shahid Kapoor. I'm quite fond of Tamasha, but the rest of his stuff, I've been bitchy about Rockstar for basically like since I've
You
seen
are
it.
you are a proper. You don't like his work outside of those two, those
Yeah,
three
I don't
or
know.
whatever. Yeah.
I was sympathetic to Amar Singh. I quite like Amar Singh
Acha,
Chamkila
yeah,
as
you
well.
liked Amar and Chimkila. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't mind Love Aajkal, but like Love Aajkal 2020 is easy to hate. Rockstar and Highway are both films that I'm not sympathetic to at all. So I'm quite mixed on his work. And again, the fact that I did like Chamkila had me more sympathetic going into this film and kind of excited because again, we watched it I think about a week after it had come out. So
Not
there
week.
was a
I
lot
think
of
just after
discussion
the weekend we watched. So
after the
yeah.
weekend, but
Hmm.
by then there was a lot of discussions on like Nasruddin Shah's performance and like
Hmm.
the my kind of circle or our kind of circles that started seeing it a little bit. So I was interested going in, but to me the film just doesn't work on any level. Like I really don't know what nice to say about it apart from the fact that it's a decently nice looking film. Like it looks like a film, which at this point in Bollywood is a
Yeah, this
proper
is the whole thing.
compliment.
Yeah,
Again,
Sylvester
the last
Fonseca is
film
always is a good
obviously, I mean,
cinematographer. Yeah.
again, the last film that like we watched together was Welcome to the Jungle. So, like, when that is what Bollywood is putting out, the fact that it looks like a competent film, like it looks like one,
Yeah.
is a
I
big
mean,
deal. But like
also
when I
there's three good songs. Three
yeah,
good
there's
songs,
two,
I
three
would say.
goods. I think it is a mid ARR album. It is
Okay.
not one of the better collaborations between. I think Ali and I mean, you look at as much as I despise Rockstar, the soundtrack is undeniably like fantastic, and it is
Hmm.
one of the best collaborations between the director and the music director.
Hmm.
But for me, with what happened with Main Vaapas Aaunga is I was actually almost gaslit into thinking it's not all that bad because I think a lot of its dramatics hit vaguely in the area of interesting. Like I think Sharwari is a very charismatic actress. I've
Hmm.
seen her in two other projects, and I think she's the better part of both of them, that being Veda and Alpha. And I think Vedant Rana is a decently competent actor.
Jesus.
He was, huh?
No,
What?
sorry. Go ahead.
He was the best part of the disaster that is Archie's, and I like Jigra unlike Dhruv here, so I didn't mind him there as well. So I think their track was interesting. I think the beginning of Nasruddin Shah, I think Nasruddin Shah's performance is great. I don't think there needs to be said much about that. But for me, the problem is that once Diljit Dosanjh opens his mouth proper, the film just stops working altogether for me. I think for the first time it really hit me was when the partition stand-up comedy bit starts for real. And I was like, Imtiaz, what is wrong with you? Because what do you mean? Like, there's a scene that's so indicative to like the film properly talking down to its audience, which the film has nothing to say apart from partition bad, which is not even that partition hona tha nahi hona tha, but that violence taking place during the partition is bad. Which is, I'm like, wow, what a wonderful, brand new, never thought before observation, Imtiaz. But there's a scene where he goes to a party and Diljit is with like some other friends of his, and they're all in Chandigarh. And he goes, "Aapne partition ke bare mein to suna hoga na." And I'm like, excuse me. It was that moment. It was those moments. I think the problem is that I know people are like, okay, the Diljit arc is back, but the rest is fine. But I think the Diljit track is egregiously bad, and it's indicative of the problems to the rest of the film, which very fundamentally is that it's one utterly nondescript. The setting of a village in Punjab and Sargodha and all is, it looks like a generic village, like North Indian village TM kind of a thing. It doesn't have any kind of specificity to its setting or to its a character, to its place, to be very honest. The Nasruddin Shah's arc is, I think, constantly devalued by whatever interpretation Diljit does to the audience of all of it. I think the big comparison for me, obviously, are two films. One is Veer Zara and one is 21. And the way I put it, and what I was talking about with Assi as well, is Veer Zara understands that the personal is political, that their romance is hindered or hampered by the political situation of the divide. On the other hand, with 21, it understands that the political is personal. It goes into this idea of a war, but that war is made up of individuals and their experiences and how they interact with these systems. With Main Vaapas Aaunga, the partition and the romance have basically nothing to do with each other. And they kind of sit vaguely next to each other and interact when it's relevant. And I think the showiness to me is, again, very indicative scene. It's the interval image where you have this moment where Vedang, Raina and Sharvari are separated by the partition that is coming, and a red line is like drawn between the two of them in the silhouette of the border between India and Pakistan. And it is tasteless, is what I'm going to say. And that to me carries through. I'll talk about it more, I think, once we get to the discussion, but how it treats women is a huge issue to me, which I think it's deeply, deeply misogynistic in a way that it doesn't self-reflect on at all. And finally, that when Anas, you said the Diljit track, in my head, I went track as a music track, because I think Kya Kamal Hai is possibly the most tasteless thing I have seen in a long, long, long time. So it's just, it's a film that doesn't work on a dramatic level. It doesn't work on a message level. It doesn't work on a filmmaking level. I think the film is too long. I think the editing is questionable. So it's competent people giving it like a shoulder shrug, and just.
I think
giving it that
one of the
versus-
sorry, I just want to say one of the bigger also points you said was this doesn't feel like which is the counter you were saying about Satluj, which you've seen, I've not seen
Yes,
yet. But
which is fundamentally that I don't know why Imtiaz is making this film. The problem is, if we were talking about intentions, I don't see any investment of Ali in the text at all. I see him in the text because he's a very distinct director, derogatory in this case of this
writer,
text.
I would say, but yeah.
Writer and director, but I don't see why this text matters to Imtiaz Ali, which is why I'm like, I don't even feel the intention. Like, I can give marks for, oh, you intended for something, it didn't carry through, but I don't see that at all. With Satluj, or even with Assi for that matter, I can see that Sinha is very passionate about what he's saying, even if he's not able to say it well. I just cannot tell you why Imtiaz is saying this, apart from he wants to make Love Aajkal 2026, but with prestige of talking about the
remake
partition
Veer Zara.
alongside. No, but again, Veer Zara doesn't have the delusions of grandeur that I feel like a film like Main Vaapas Aaunga does, which is my problem. That there's nothing that justifies to me bringing in the partition and the horrors and the atrocities of it, which becomes a major focus of the latter half of the film.
Okay.
Without
What
an
I'll do is
investment
I
in the
won't
material.
speak because I think you've covered a fair share of what I had issues with also. I'll let Anas speak, counter you, and then I'll speak. If I have any counters, then it's fine. Otherwise, I'll just list off my caveats and then we can move on.
Sure.
Okay. Anas, please go ahead. Apologies for anyone who loves the film. I know Cris went off on it, but Cris has been holding it inside him for the past 3 weeks. So I think, yeah.
Honestly, I was I was really very keenly hearing, and and then I would like Dhruv. You should also speak about it. Then I can come
Okay,
in.
sure. I mean, I think
Yeah.
Chris and me were sort of distinguishing the issues we have. I think
But it's
I
also
was.
because I'm
Hmm.
sorry. I
No, no,
was
go
just
ahead,
saying
please.
that it's really important because when a lot of people out there are loving the film,
Yeah,
it's really important that somebody brings a distinct perspective
yeah,
to the discourse.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it would be really good that you guys carry on
Ye-
this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, sure. No, no, I
Because
mean,
what
again,
I'll add is
hmm,
majorly what the rest of the people are talking about.
sure.
Yeah.
No, no, and I think one of the people who didn't mind it as much as we did, and he's part of the podcast, Amartya, he sort of has a,
Yeah.
he made one of the he said one of the things which I was like, okay, I kind of get it in the sense that a lot of people have liked the past track, the love story between Kinu and Sharvari's character, Jia, right? At that point, she's called Jia at least. So I think that being the anchor leading up to sort of Nasiruddin Shah's, like that being the anchor, and then that thread leading to Nasir's character as this sort of recurring memory. I think I can see if people connect to that, why they would sort of forget the sort of. I would say nonsense surrounding it. But anyways, my point is again I have a I'm slightly more sympathetic to Imtiaz and Chris, though I'm generally a little annoyed at how revered Imtiaz is in general, though. I think he's a very interesting filmmaker, which does not to me equal that he's a great filmmaker. So I think, it's one of those things where I'm like, I think he's operated best when he's done simple. And in that simplicity, he's infused his ideas. The moment he's taken his sort of Sufiana leap, which he loves. I know the fans, whoever loves Rockstar, whoever loves, I know they don't care for Jab We Met that much. So my first caveat was I like Jab We Met a lot. That is one of my favorites. I am an Imtiaz Ali Jab We Met fan the most. I like Tamasha a fair bit. That's his most formally experimental work, I think, in whatever, playful, not experimental, but whatever, it's playful. This is the big disclaimer. Sorry, I've come with this because I'm like, I'm not getting invisible shoes thrown at me. For whoever listens to this. I was basically like, the second thing is, I have no skin in this game, okay? So, in other words, and this I'm just verbatim reading, I don't have any personal connections or personal sort of memory of partition as pain, which I know people have expressed as something which they deeply related to when they saw the film. That is a personal affective response which I have nothing of it, and I just don't think that should be a prerequisite for a filmmaker or film for eliciting any sort of emotion. This is the same comment I got with Past Lives, and I was like, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Uh, if I haven't had the experience, that doesn't mean I cannot experience that experience. That is BS, in my opinion. But anyways, if people have sympathized or have personal sort of connections with it because of what the subject matter is and what it depicts, it's great. Again, empathy, like the affective response, is the biggest thing for me. So if you can make anyone do that, relying on their memory or whatever, perfect, works for you. It didn't work for me. I don't have the connection also. This one, and this is me outing myself as a lot of things, I suppose, here. How declarative should I be about this, Chris? You have to decide.
Go
Okay.
ahead, sir.
So my third caveat is I'm an upper caste, upper class Hindu man. I have literally written this, and watching this cinema from a privileged position, which is, I have to admit that. I would argue that cinema watching occurs from a position of privilege always. I think cinema watching is happens from a privileged position, regardless of whatever the other privileges are. But regardless, my point is that I belong to these brackets. So if you want to ignore my opinion, you can most happily do that. And I would say a direct follow up to my third point, which I made, was that. To me, cinema, and this we briefly touched upon when talking to Anas in the beginning, is that cinema is never about what a film is representing to me. It's always been about how it's representing the subject matter. This is the most critical caveat of all, given most of my criticisms towards Main Vaapas Aaunga are directed at the how. I have less issues with the what, which I think Chris has some more issues with the what also. So to me, it is about how, and I think the film is not a good melodrama. I think it's not a good sort of docu-fiction, which also, that's an element it wants to sort of juggle into it a little bit also, which I think it does very clumsily. And it's not a good sort of cinematic impressionist sort of memory piece, which it also wants to be. So to me, I had written, and I guess I'm just going to reiterate some of those points, is that Imtiaz Ali has for a while now split the difference between Terrence Malick and Yash Chopra for me. Yash Chopra, Veer Zara Yash Chopra, I mean, I have not seen his earlier work. Imtiaz Ali wants to do melodrama. Imtiaz Ali also wants to do impressionism. They are fundamentally opposing forces to me. One requires sustained build-up and sustained release. The other is about impressionism is about bursts of spontaneous things which have no structure, which have no sort of
Logic.
logic in many ways. So to me, they fundamentally conflict. And in this film, the filmmaker is trying to do both, along with trying to be partition 101 didacticism, along with trying to be sort of, well, Love Aajkal 3.0, which I think is the big. I mean, I know Anas is also with us on this, but the Love Aajkal, I am allergic to Love Aajkal, both 1 and 2. So I do not like that mode of Imtiaz Ali. But when Diljit's track starts in this, I was just like, my God, he's made Love Aajkal 3.0. And I was like, I do not want to be here because I despise that over explaining things which are fairly obvious on the surface with Imtiaz dialogue, which I know again people love Imtiaz dialogue. I think he has a big issue with the internal monologue altogether only. I think he lets people speak too much of what they feel. They like the actor, he puts the actor in very difficult positions, in my opinion, and I think only very few actors can come out of it unscathed. One of them would, I would say, be Ranbir Kapoor. Actually, I think he's the most successful in this terms of selling that sort of very blabbermouthy sort of expresses everything. I mean, of course, Geet is there, but Geet is a much bubblier character. She's not like tormented in the sort of मुझे मेरा दिल तोड़वाना है the rockstar style thing. Anyways, so my issues are more formalist with it. So which is the whole idea that I don't think it's a film which knows what it wants to be most of the time. And I think in that process, it undercuts a lot of the basics, I think, which Imtiaz Ali is good at, in the sense that I didn't buy the old school romance that much. I thought it was very generic. And this is not a knock against Vedang Raina or Sharvari. I think they're both fine, perfectly decent. I think Sharvari smiles well. Like, that's my big thing about Sharvari. Like, she's given very little to do also, I think. But I thought their relationship was fine. It wasn't something I was clamoring to go back to. The only reason I was clamoring to go back to it is because how bad the modern day section stuff was. And to me, I know it's not our duty as critics to, in fact, tell the filmmaker what they should have done or what they could have done. But to me, there are fundamentally little changes you could have made, at least to me, in which I can see why the film would at least work for me much more than. One of them is just chuck out Diljit as a character only from the entire film. Put Kapoor as the audience surrogate. He has a very compelling dynamic with his father and a hatred towards his father or resentment towards his father going on, which I think parallels well with him possibly learning to reckon with his father's identity. So I'm like, he is clearly a better surrogate for us, in fact, in that sense. That was there. Then we'll discuss the ending. Chris and me have a very particular note about the ending, which we think Imtiaz flops badly. But again, these are very personal
Ties
things. I
into the
know,
misogyny of the film. Yeah.
I suppose, but like to me, it was also just like, if you're going for complexity, like commit to it. Don't sidestep it, which was my sort of big thing. But yeah, I mean, those are my big things to say, Anas. I mean, a lot of it has been wrapped up by Chris only. I don't want to repeat those same points, but yeah, largely just it didn't work for me on how it was made into this well-intentioned thing. So to me, everything fell flat. A lot of the lecturing felt very Zoya Akhtari in a bad sense, where it felt like, you were being told off about what partition is and all that is. And I'm like, I think there's interesting things from a conceptual point here. I'm just like, you've not managed to um, find a way to reckon with that intellectual sort of reckoning, because Diljit's character is a narcissist, he's opportunistic in many ways, and the film just does not reckon with that at all, in a way which I thought was productive. So yeah, to me, there's feigning importance, feigning grandeur, feigning posturing, sort of, it's all performative, all posture, all sort of, a display of meaning. But I think it's quite shallow. I think the film is shallow. I think the film is depthless, I would say, honestly. And I think that so when people when so part of the rebuke, of course, from my end is not just to the film. It's a rebuke to the whole idea that this film is not the savior of Hindi cinema. Like, to me, this can't be, because I think it fundamentally is not a good film. I'm judging it from that angle. And if the intentionality, I think, works for people, then I think it's fine. I think the execution hinders the intentionality a reasonable bit also. So again, we'll get into it a little bit more. I don't want to dwell on it that much, but yeah, Anas, please go ahead. We've taken too much time.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of things that you guys spoke about,
Hmm.
especially about the entire Daljit thing.
Hmm.
And I firmly believe if you remove him from the film, it would be a much better film.
Hmm.
And as you rightly said, in fact, that was something I was talking in afternoon with one of my friends,
Hmm.
that it should have been a relationship between Rajat and Nasir, and they
Hmm.
both are such great
Yeah.
actors, and it's a crime. It's really crime that you're casting them in a film and you really don't have a solid sequence scene between them.
Yeah.
You know, the only time I think so Rajat talks to Nasir is towards the climax when he's arranging that video call.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's literally not in the same frame with Nasir.
Yeah.
And also, given the fact that they have sort of like he's having his own daddy issues and etc etc, it would have been such a great thing just to explore that dynamic,
Hmm.
and of course about intergenerational trauma and etc etc. So all of that is there, and then of course we spoke about Banita's character.
Yeah.
That's that was just so hilarious.
I think we mentioned the accent, right? I think a little bit. I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that the accent to me is essentially a representation of the difference between modern love. Like, her accent represents modern love for me. Like, it's that, like, I think that's the reason given for the accent, because
That fake,
that's the
that performative,
differentiation.
I
that
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, no, no, I
And I
don't know if
completely
he,
agree with. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
No, no, I don't know if he did that, but to me, it felt like that, is my point. Yeah.
I completely agree that Imtiaz should just get away with this thing between what is love now and what love was and
Yeah.
used to be, because it's just, I mean, it was to a degree novel when he did first in 2009, and
Yeah.
also novel because a lot of it was also because of Aarti Bajaj's editing, which I firmly believe that if there's no Aarti Bajaj and there is no Imtiaz Ali also. A lot of people talk
Yeah.
about between him and Rahman, but
Yeah.
more than Rahman, I feel it's really Aarti who makes and breaks his
Yeah.
films. She's in fact not not really broken her film. She's always trying to mend it
Yeah.
and make it more cohesive or like
Mm-hmm.
more engaging and more to make it more resonant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just now also thinking what else sort of didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's this entire Swades thing that they're doing with Daljit's character. Like he's building some, I don't know, some gadget or something that he makes sometime in the second half. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a scene right after interval when they're sitting somewhere in some
Yeah.
cape
Yeah.
and they're talking rubbish. And I'm like, have I entered into a wrong screening?
Yeah.
I just thought that for a minute.
Mm.
Like I'd gone outside in the interval break, and the moment I walk in and
Mm.
the screen opens and they're talking I just
Yeah.
couldn't make sense of what is he really trying to do. And
Mm.
then him visiting those partition museums to understand about partition, and it's such a mockery that I mean he and the way it's written that it looks like that he's interacting with his grandfather for the first time in his entire existence,
Yeah.
as if he doesn't know all these stories,
Yeah.
as if he's always been very distant. If that was the case, then it didn't just come across it.
Mm-hmm.
It it was a very convenient narrative device to
Mm.
have him in the film,
Yeah.
just to make sure that the film becomes more palatable, say, to the masses,
Yeah.
and so that Imtiaz can also talk about what he thinks love is versus whatever
Mm-hmm.
rubbish that is. Uh,
Mm.
and but then coming to the points of why I liked a,
Yeah.
a lot of it and why
Mm.
I feel why in a lot of ways I also feel it's his most evolved work
Mm-hmm.
is because for a very long time his films are always about running away from the home and like finding yourself, etc., be it
Mm-hmm.
highway, be it rockstar. I mean, it's embedded in all his
Yeah.
films, be it Tamasha, etc., Jab We Met,
Jab Harry
etc.,
Met
etc.
Sejal also,
Yeah,
for
Jab
that
Harry Met
matter.
Sejal and
Yeah.
all of that, which I
Yeah.
sort of I'm a Shahrukh fan in that sense,
We
but
are
it
all
has a
Shahrukh
lot of
fans here,
interest.
don't worry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has a lot of interesting stuff going out there. It's
It
just that
does.
again it doesn't
It
come
it just needs
together.
a cynical ending. In my opinion. Yeah.
I mean that it's just worthy enough for that entire first 5 minutes where Shahrukh is going through that suffer thing.
Oh, he's
You just
terrific in that. He's so good.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So but we can have a separate pod just on
Yeah.
Jabari Nath Sejal
Yeah.
someday. But other than that,
Mm.
yeah. So why but this time it's not about running away from the home, but
Mm.
it's about homecoming.
Yeah.
So that was a very welcome change for me. I
Mm-hmm.
felt that he was trying to do, and then something again which I wrote in my piece was
Mm.
also that all his films are essentially, if you really want to sort of break it down and like talk talk in a very layman sense,
Mm.
then all his films are about two things, which are basically stories and journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And the 10, I think so, he's directed 10 films or so, and
Mm.
across all of them, like sometimes it's the journey of storytelling, which is like in
Yeah.
Tamasha,
Tamasha. Yeah. Mm.
or like in other films, like it's journey towards storytelling, which is
Mm.
Rockstar.
Yeah.
Sometimes the journey becomes the story, like in Highway, or
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, or like sometimes stories unfold across journeys, like Lavachkal, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I really felt it was very fitting because his entire career is made up of like trying to chronicle characters who are essentially lost souls, who
Yeah.
are searching for their stories. So I felt that now it's very fitting that he's trying to chronicle a nation in its most turbulent time, who is also
Mm.
trying to find its own story, who is also
Yeah.
trying to find its own fitting
Yeah.
through this entire tragedy that it's going through. So I felt that it was a very right pick. Like you guys were talking about how you don't necessarily think that why Imtiaz would make a film
This
like
is
that.
more of a Chris thing. Just saying,
Oh
I
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
less of a issue with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
in that sense it was an interesting thing that now,
Sure.
especially after Chamkila, he's trying to take up this mammoth of a thing,
Mm.
and he's trying to say like either, of course, it's not textually but subtextually trying to understand a nation better, its people better, also a
Mm-hmm.
time that was versus the time that is right
Yeah.
now.
Which is
So a
very Veer
lot of
Zara, right? I think.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
and I have to say this that being a Yash Chopra fan, having
Uh,
watched all of his work,
uh,
I get that a lot of people are comparing it to Veer Zara and also in a very
mm,
reverential sense. But
mm,
it's also very important to understand that Chopra came from a generation who saw partition firsthand.
mm. Yeah.
So when so it's embedded in his filmography.
Yeah.
It's
Mm,
the first film, I think so. The first, no, not the first.
mm,
Of course, the first few films he made were
mm,
about this, but then the first multi-starrer he made, which was Waqt, which is
mm,
also about essentially a commentary on partition, etc.,
mm.
etc. So in that sense, just to compare it and say, oh, it's Imtiaz Ali's Veer Zara is sort of offending,
Yeah.
offensive in a way because Veer Zara is, of course, it's a much better and a much moving film,
Mm,
uh, and also because it's coming from a filmmaker who is all who was more responsible in the way he was dealing with it,
yeah.
because having lived through it, he
Yeah.
had a much more closer or an intimate understanding
Yeah.
of what he was trying to say. Um but then coming back to this, I okay, so the thing that I really liked in the
Mm-hmm.
film is essentially Kinu's character and and things which are left unsaid, which is up to me to imagine.
Okay.
Uh, are the things that I really really like. I really liked how like he was so madly in love with the Sharvari's character Jia, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not wrong,
Yeah.
and how innocent he was, or how innocent their love was.
Yeah.
That like there's this wonderful bit when he's trying to protest and he say ki, and when he sits down on the road and he says "मैं नहीं जाऊंगा यहाँ से," and then etc etc.
Mm,
And in that moment you just feel, of course, you see the innocence in them.
mm,
uh innocence in his eyes, but then you
Yeah.
also realize that, oh my god, he's in a big trouble,
Mm-hmm.
because it's all going to be taken away from him and it's only a matter of time. So
Mm-hmm.
as a viewer, you're just waiting when he will harden, like
Mm.
when life will hit him.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was a very interesting, again, like a very again a very typical, in that sense, in Imtiaz Ali male protagonist arc
Yeah. Yeah.
of like, yeah, it has nothing novel, but just to see that it's actually partition which is doing this to him, rather
Mm.
than say it was like music in Rockstar or
Yeah,
like
like a personal.
storytelling.
It wasn't like a personal thing. It was more like a political
Yeah,
thing.
like a larger societal thing, which
Yeah.
I felt was okay. Like Imtiaz is trying to go, as I said, he's trying to evolve himself. It
Yeah.
might not be like it might not be very assured storytelling, or he it looks like, as Chris was saying, he's very anxious, and it looks like at times also insecure. He doesn't really know where he's going with it. But I just felt that okay, he's trying to move away with whatever
Mm.
he has done in the past in his
Sure.
own ways,
Yeah.
and trying to go ahead. So that
Mm.
was a bit that I really like.
Yeah.
And just the fact that uh like when I saw Nasir, of course Nasir is so good,
Yeah.
as always,
Yeah.
but just the fact that him lying on his deathbed feels like a, like less feels less like a protagonist, but more like an old grandfather who
Yeah.
is who is so determined to pass on a story before it disappears forever.
Yeah.
And also it's about a story of a time when, like, say, which was uh, where, say, like, tolerance stood on the brink of polarization, or
Mm-hmm.
like of story of a love which was corroded by machinery of hate,
Yeah.
and story about yesterday, but also story which speaks directly to today, I feel.
Yeah.
uh and that's what made it really very effective for me.
Yeah.
uh and there's this wonderful moment. The only time I felt Daljit made sense was that when he's talking about, and how he's talking about, if people who carried love through the most difficult times disappear,
Mm.
then what also disappears with them is also love, for that
Mm.
matter, and we are just left with resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important that somebody decides to preserve
Yeah.
their accounts, and whatever they lived through. So
Yeah.
I just felt that metaphorically and subtextually, his fading memory
Yeah, but
just
yeah,
became,
no, absolutely sorry, Anas, I'm just saying, yeah, but that is very Imtiaz only. I feel like it's not like the whole storytelling aspect of it, the
yeah,
memory aspect of it is very
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
Imtiaz.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, as I said, films are essentially about stories and journeys, and I felt it was
yeah,
really fitting, as I had said in
yeah,
the beginning, that both of them are coming together
yeah.
yet again here. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I just felt that, as I was saying, that it's a perfect metaphor for a society losing touch with its own empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And and which I remember writing something like that in my
Mm-hmm.
article, was that as Keanu is struggling to remember, the film is also trying to ask whether the nation can also try to remember, whether it
Mm-hmm.
can recover memory buried beneath years of division and
Yeah.
distrust.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and and that's what essentially was subtextually really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with Chris. One of the big problems I had with the film was the character of Sharwari,
Mm-hmm.
and largely how women are dealt in the film,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And that's again very typical Imtiaz Ali. And that's, I might get cancelled for this, but that's also a problem with Nolan, for that matter. They
Oh,
both
you won't
struggle
get cancelled for. I think everyone, even Nolan probably
okay.
knows this. I think at this point.
They
Yeah.
both struggle a lot with, and in both their films, women are just basically looked through lens of memory, or they like look through lens of violence,
Yeah.
and etc etc, which is again the culmination is like, for that moment of when Dolly Aliwalia does what she does in Main Vaapas Aaunga, I just felt that it's a different movie altogether. I mean, it was a
Very
shock, and I
rough.
get that, yeah, and I get it was Imtiaz deliberately trying to do a tonal shift, and he's trying to
Like he
make a
does a
comment.
wide angle with like a Dutch. It's almost like a
Yeah,
Dutch angle
yeah,
of that
it's one
killing.
The
take.
It's
color grade changes, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
totally
interviewed
strange.
Sylvester, and he was,
oh for you. Okay.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and he was telling me that and he was haunted himself. And Sylvester was
Sure.
telling me that
Hmm.
when they were shooting it, because, and even the other junior artist whom she's actually cutting their
Hmm.
throats, they also got scared because something gotten into Dolly Ahluwalia.
Hmm.
And I feel that's true for Imtiaz also, because something went to him in that moment.
Hmm.
And so I felt it, again, as always, that Sharvaris, I just couldn't know, just couldn't get insight into her.
I think,
But
sorry, just to button on, I think that would be okay if he entirely committed to Nasir's point of view. I
that's
think the
also
film
true.
is
Yeah.
not committed to his point of view
Yeah.
entirely,
Yeah.
though, which is the
Yeah.
issue. I think, like,
Yeah.
if you
And I
commit to
also
his
feel
point
it's
of view, then it's
also,
fine.
yeah, like say for instance, the only instance, or like, of course, Jab We Met can also be cited as an example,
Hmm.
but like, the only solid instance where a female character rises beyond the script
Hmm.
in his film is in Tamasha. And
Yeah.
that's largely because of course, Deepika's spirited performance.
Yeah.
And but you, again, it's again a story of way than him going through
Ha,
his
it like
own life,
brackets
etc.
around Ved, no, in the end, though, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, one of the
still
best
Deepika
bits of
manages to
Tamasha,
stand
yeah,
out.
yeah, one of
Yeah.
the best bits of Tamasha is Heer To Badi Sad Hai, where it
Yeah,
completely pivots
exactly.
on
And
her.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And of course, she is the more interesting character also,
Yeah.
than Ved, because Ved
Yeah.
is, in that sense, yet another typical male protagonist of an early
Yeah.
film. But it's a really so. But the thing that the thing that really, it's not a counter to my own criticism about how he has dealt with female characters,
Hmm.
but what I really liked, and when I really got into the film,
Hmm.
was towards the just before the end, when Kinu walks away and Gia is climbing down the stairs,
Stairs. Hmm.
and she stands, and
Hmm.
we are left with this gigantic wide frame where
Hmm.
she appears so small.
Hmm.
and and I was like, that's, of course, it's, that says so much.
Hmm.
And I would have really liked if, like, all through the film and days after it, I was just imagining what a life Gia would have lived.
Yeah.
Also because she dies
She
without any
doesn't get the
closure.
catharsis
Yeah,
that he
exactly.
gets,
She
right?
doesn't get a
Yeah.
closure.
Yeah.
For that matter, Nasir gets a closure, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
she also waits for him. She also, and it's actually her whose trust has been broken and
Broken. Yeah.
betrayed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, so
100%. Like,
she is the more tragic character in
yeah,
that sense.
she is.
And if it, like, if I just think from a screenwriter's
Hmm.
POV, it's the more meatier character to go
Yeah. Yeah.
for than say like a Kino or
Yeah.
etc etc. Like
I think
if
I honestly think, though, Anas, sorry, just to button, and I'm going to try and wrap this around the ending
Yeah.
just so that we can just
yeah
end the discussion also then. But
yeah
also just this whole idea that one of the big things that Chris and me, when we were watching, and I have to admit, we both were actively talking about the ending while it was happening because we were very distracted in general by the film. We generally don't do this, but we were like, Imtiaz, you'll not do the melodramatic ending where she's alive, right? That would be very stupid. So to
yeah
me, I was like, okay, he didn't do that, which I was like, good, it makes sense. And then there's this opportunity in the film, and we what did we call it? Was it a one? The perfect ending of this film is 180 degrees away from it.
Well, it
In
did
the
exactly. Yeah.
where if you turn the where Diljit turns the camera in the film, if he turns it around and he focuses on the other woman who's standing there, and because you said his films are about narratives, about constructed narratives, about narratives of memory, if anything, of this whole idea that we will tell you something and you will remember it and you might then maybe find closure, even though one character at one point says that there is no closure to be found for people who are separated by the partition, which is a very heartbreaking notion, which I think would perfectly feed into this film's ending, I think. But in any case, there is a woman who tells
yeah
Diljit's character that Sharbari's character has passed away in her old age. To me, the perfect ending, at least when I was seeing it, was like Diljit constructs a narrative um,
Nasir.
for Nasir by turning the camera on the woman who's alive and pretend for her to basically pretend for that brief second that because he's senile at that point, right? He can't see anything in any case, and he's blabbering and everything. So to me, it made sense that the camera turned to someone else who was not entirely her, and he got his closure, but it was a fake closure because it makes sense. The whole idea is to construct closure. You can't gain closure, right? The partition is positioned in the film as something which doesn't allow you to get, which like creates wounds that never heal in the most sort of banal sense. And then I was like, the idea of Imtiaz constructing narratives to find a closure, I think makes total sense here. But I think the film is too romantic in that scene. It gives Keanu the closure. Is my point. Even though it's a fabricated narrative, only he's only looking at the photo of Gia. But to me, the film sidesteps the difficult ending here, in my opinion, at least. And it reminded again, it's a highish brow reference, but last year is Ramel Ross's Nickel Boys, which is also all about identity and how black identity and black lives have been taken. And in order to retain or recollect an identity, it's often done at the price of another black identity or black life. So to me, that is the sort of, I'm not saying you need to make that film. I'm saying that your film has the seeds of something it has planted those seeds of complexity. I'm like, you're not committing to it, then you're opting for the very romantic ending where you even see her image flash 3 times saying bye. I'm like, you can de-romanticize that also a little bit, in the sense that that makes sense. The closure can't be entirely fulfilled for Nasir's character because she passed away. She never got the closure. Why should he also get that closure? Why should the film be so insistent on giving him that closure? At least those are the thoughts I felt while watching the ending. I know the ending is very moving because of Nasir himself in the scene. But to me, all these questions started sort of appearing about, constructed narratives, about lack of closure, about constructing closure and all that stuff. So I think there are seeds of a very interesting movie here about memory, about recollection, about
Yeah.
forgetting, about all this. I just think the film just leaves them as opposed to, just cobbling them together in any way. That's my sort of big issue with it, if anything else. So yeah, that's why I wanted to sort of circle back to the ending at least, because
Yeah.
it was something that made me think about all these things. But yeah, Chris, anything else you were saying?
No, just on the
Briefly.
misogyny point, just a little bit, yeah, briefly.
Hmm.
I would highly recommend for anyone interested. There is a very famous paper called "Figure of the Abducted Woman" by Veena Das.
Hmm.
It's essentially about women and the sexual economy that came post the partition, and how violence against women and all of that is framed as part of the nation building of both sides of the border.
Hmm.
And I feel like Ali falls into those really those impulses that are deeply rooted in a certain misogyny and certain framing of the women's role in this. And it was the perspective thing, right? Like, obviously, when your film is being compared to Padmavat in a good way, you know that you have done something wrong
Excuse me?
with what Doria Ahluwalia does in
Oh,
that
okay.
scene.
Fine. Yeah.
But I think for me, the fundamental problem is even picturizing it as a problem, right? Because again, the
Yeah.
perspective issue is women are used as devices to give meaning to. It's not even that the meaning is constructed. The meaning is constructed through the pain. Your pain is constructed through your hearing someone else's testimony about someone else's pain. Like,
Hmm.
even that scene where Keanu finds out about what happened to Hamari Aurate, which is again a very loaded way to refer to his
Hmm.
sister and the women in his family. You can talk about like my family members without saying Hamari Aurate. He's listening to this elder who witnessed or was aware of the violence that took place with the women in his family, and he doesn't have access to it, but we get to see the flashback, which is this overly dramatized, like nobody has access to that memory, but we are given it, and it starts feeling really tasteless immediately. And then you come to the whole Sharvari character and all that. So I feel fundamentally a problem with the film is that it constructs even the pain of the main character to the pain of other people without ever giving them the room to acknowledge their own pain. I think that for me is a point towards it, that Imtiaz's misogyny comes to really that he's very comfortable instrumentalizing the real brutality of the violence that women experienced and picturizing it in a way that's very fetishistic to build character and build meaning for Keanu and the other, even Diljit, who goes to the other character and says "Hamari aurat hai," etc., etc. Yeah, that's
Yep.
I think that's about it. We know Anas had to leave at a short notice, but we originally had a larger segment planned here. So, despite his leaving, Dhruv and I have decided that we're just going to go with it because we've put in
Yeah,
the
we like
effort to do it.
spending time with each other, right? That's why, Chris. Yeah.
And talking about bad films, which are the two things that are
And your
our
food
mutual,
habits.
which are our mutual love languages. But anyways,
It's not my mutual love language. It's the films you've taken me to.
what do you mean I have taken you to? It's the ones that we have watched together.
You have taken me to.
I told you, I gave you an option with Welcome to the Jungle. Also, Hai Jawani To Ishq Hona is
You
on
gave me
you.
an
That
option.
is
No,
your
no, wait. Expand on that. You gave me an option with Welcome to the Jungle to watch that, or
Masters of the Universe.
and which was the better movie, Chris?
Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah, well, so yeah, I chose well.
You did, but like I didn't force you to go for it. I gave you an
Oh yeah,
option.
you gave me a wonderful option between an incompetently made funny film and an incompetently made unfunny film.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Anyways, so we have decided that for the group of few decent films and a lot of terrible films that we
No,
have
wait.
watched.
What is this long-winded way of just saying? Oh, amazing! My light went off while I just said this. What a long-winded way of saying these are our dishonorable mentions.
No, because I've got at least a couple of honorable mentions here,
Okay,
sir.
fine.
So I'm
These are
not
my
going to
okay,
frame it
fine. So
that way.
these are mostly our dishonorable
Most
mentions.
so, but we what we decide is we'll go back to our normal roundup format, which is just to pick up categories and give the essentially the worst of award, but like a couple of them are like best of question mark.
Yeah, but you are not
So
getting any long-winded explanations from us. We are being very like snappy about this. We are not like spending ages on this.
I might give you like a little bit on one of the films, but apart
Okay.
from that, I think it will be fine
Yeah,
only.
because I don't want to like
Um,
just say that this is bad and how bad it is because
obviously bad with explanation, but like brief,
we'll
not
see about that.
yapping about it. We'll try.
We'll try.
Okay, so shall we begin?
We shall
I will
try.
give you the first category, which is we start with performance. Dhruv, what
Sure.
is your
Wow,
honorable
we
and
started
your
with
dishonorable?
performance. So this is one of the few categories in which I have an honorable mention, not a dishonorable one.
J.
So this is apparently the film I hate, according to people on our group, because I don't love it like they do. The simple reason being, I love half of this movie, and I don't really care for half of this movie. But the one half of this movie which I love has my best performances of the year as of now in Bollywood, especially. But I would maybe even extend it to beyond that as of now. But this is Jaideep Alhawat and Dharmendra in Ikkis by Sriram Raghavan. Very accomplished film, a very honorable film. I think one of the better made honorable films of the year. The it has its heart in the right place, etc., etc. But I think it also knows it has one story that knows exactly what beats it needs to hit, and whatever emotional beats it needs to hit. And I think you've got two performers here who are very good at underplaying. Weirdly enough, I'm saying this for Dharmendra, but because he always has had a penchant also of overplaying, but here he is very wonderfully underplaying, and him and Jaideep Ahlawat both have this wonderful sort of respect for each other, which like they don't need to overtly communicate, and you get that from their body language almost throughout, and the back and forth they have in their final scene together in this is one of the most moving things I think in a Bollywood movie I've seen in a while. It's genuinely, I think it's those couple of performances along with that storyline, I think are extraordinary enough to make the rest of the film a little weak also. So to me, the strength of them also is the film's weakness in some senses, but it is the only part, not the only, it's the half part of Ikkis I will definitely remember beyond this year also. Maybe I rewatch it someday and maybe I find more value in the other half. But as of now, this is Jaideep Alawat and Dharmendra my favorite performances of the year so far. Yeah.
Yeah, if my honorable picks were also these two, so I'm gonna go on the dishonorable end.
Yeah.
I think the worst performance for me so far is very clear, but there's one more I'm gonna add on top because that's just breaking my heart. The worst is obviously Avinash Tiwari in O Romeo,
Mm.
which has to be one of the most egregiously nonsensical things I have seen on the screen in a while, and we've watched some real garbage this year. But
Mm.
especially in a VB film, and given how memorable VB villains can be, and
Mm.
especially the darker characters, I mean, be that in Kamine or in
Even
even
like
films
side evil characters who have
like Saat Khun
quirks.
Maaf
Mm.
in Irfan and Saat Khun Maaf is horrifying.
Terrifying. Yeah.
But you've got these really interesting characters, and you get Avinash Tiwari saying that one line about Meri Ashiki to something mehengi hai, tumne ranjish hi kari thi, like 15 times. And he's doing he's the matador for no reason at all. And like
Yeah.
the moment like I was checked out from the film from the very beginning, both
Mm.
times that I watched it. But I know for you and I know for me as well that the moment he enters the film, like
Yeah.
absolutely tanks.
I mean, it's just to
Whatever.
be a little. It's not entirely his fault.
Sure, yeah, he's
Mm.
not given anything
Mm.
basically to work with.
Yeah.
But what he's given to work with, also, he does a really bad job with. So
Yeah.
that's definitely the easy answer.
Mm.
The sadder answer is obviously Shahid Kapoor, who's
Mm.
done two absolute stinkers this year, which is O Romeo and Cocktail 2. And
Mm.
he is near unwatchable in both of them. Where like I have because I'm as mentioned earlier in the episode, I have a huge soft spot for Shahid. All credited to Jab We Met and that
Mm.
character in specific. And as now I watch like his VB like collaborations as well. He's got some great performances there. I think he's an exceptionally talented actor.
Mm.
But he's gone into this post SRV Kabir Singh kind of a mold where every character he plays is basically the same. His physicality is
What do you
repetitive, but it's also
mean?
very
He's not.
annoying.
He's a Sadguru in Cocktail too. What do you mean? He's not
सर
Arjun
प्रॉब्लम ये
Reddy.
है कि सोशल मीडिया ठीक है दैट इज दैट इज कॉकटेल टू सर
Yeah,
आई
problem
मीन
is
ही
social media. You can book tickets there for a movie like that. Or like someone
एंड
can book tickets for a movie like that and then take you to a 10 a.m. show of it.
श्योर एंड ही आल्सो कॉल्स रश्मिका मंदाना a पुरानी अलमारी सर we had to
The
sit
Purani
through
Almari,
that.
which you actually wanted him to stay inside. Not
Yeah, no.
not in a
So
sort of
again,
sexual
it makes him
connotation. Yeah.
sound closeted. Like that's why I said it makes Rashmika sound like his beard because he's like hiding in the closet. But anyways, so just the deterioration of Shahid's acting quality and just his
Paper incoming.
yeah,
Sorry.
not just not his inability, but it's like lack of desire to give a performance that's outside that mold where he's like jokey in a very cringy kind of a way and his physicality is all over the place. He can't dance well anymore. Like half the joy of watching him was that he's a really good dancer.
Hmm.
All of that is gone. So that's my like heartbroken answer of dishonorable performance.
Yeah. Chris has too
Um
much affection for like really terrible people, so he can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Unfortunate. I mean, the knowing what you know about Shahid, this is probably the real Shahid, and that is what makes it worse. But
Yeah, but you didn't fall in love with the real Shahid. You fell in love with real Shahid.
yes, that is
Just
also
admit you fell in love with Aditya, not Shahid. Simple.
yeah, but that's heartbreaking because उसकी शक्ल शाहिद की शक्ल है ना सर.
हाँ तो सोच लो imposter आ गया है.
ऐसे नहीं होता सर. Anyways, the next one we'll move on to direction. So
I
what is
have
your
two
honorable
answers for
slash?
this. I have
Go ahead with both.
nothing honorable. Like
Okay.
genuinely nothing honorable. I have two dishonorable. One is dishonorable in a sort of heartbreaking sense,
Hmm.
and the other is dishonorable in a sort of please stop making film sense. Like it's maybe you should not, because the movie apart from the direction is actually not hideous. Not hideous being the big thing. Anyways, the one answer which I didn't include, and I don't think the film is terribly directed. Uh,
Hmm.
at certain points, I think it is, but not entirely. Is Vishal Bhardwaj with Vishal Bhardwaj's O Romeo, which people are trying to pass off as Sajid Nadiadwala's O Romeo, but no, it is very much Vishal Bhardwaj's
Yeah.
for worse, unfortunately. And the other one is, I mean, I don't know how much you should pay attention to how comedy is directed. I think you should, because it's very hard to direct them. But
Yeah.
Ahmad Khan for Welcome to the Jungle, as we said, I think when we were watching it, this film does not have a director, it feels like,
Or an editor.
or an
Both of
editor.
them went on vacation and just told the actors to do whatever they want to, and then came back and
Yeah, because
delivered the
the
film.
writing isn't god awful, and at points it is. I have laughed in this movie 6 to 7 times, which is 6 to 7 times more than I expected. Right,
Yeah.
so I'm like, there is something, and we'll get to another section where this movie is mentioned twice in a semi-positive light, which is shocking to me. But in
Yeah.
any case, uh, this film, the timing, the way the scenes play out, the way it doesn't feel like a real movie. And I did, as we entered and as the screen title popped up, I was like, Chris, why have we come to the cinema to watch this film exactly? Because it definitely does not look like it's made for the cinema. It looks like it's made for like a cheapo streaming service, not even like whatever your
Yeah, I mean,
high profile
it
ones are.
barely looks like a film.
Yeah.
That is one thing.
But that
And
I
the other
think
thing is,
happens a lot with comedy, no? Like a mainstream
sure,
comedy.
I disagree. I think, I mean, unless your standard is Dhamal 4, that's
And
another
Houseful
matter.
4, 5A, 5B.
5A, 5B, sure. I'm saying now, definitely. But I think with Welcome to the Jungle, it's just that you're literally like, what is surprising to me in the direction or whatever lack thereof is
Mm.
when the film is not working, it's not unwatchable, which
Mm.
was one of my problems with Bhoot Bangla,
Mm.
Priyadarshan's film earlier this year. It is just straight up like skin crawling cringe
Mm.
for 3 hours straight. This
This
one
is
is
your worst director award, Priyadarshan.
no, it is funnily enough not, but
Okay.
it because I have a honorable mention and I have a dishonorable mention. I'm surprised you didn't have the other dishonorable mention that I was expecting, which is your Dharmatics bitching session. But
That's just direct film only.
film is
Mm.
which is of course Dharmatic Entertainment's accused.
Mm.
But my honorable mention, which I do have, is Nachiket Samant for Baby Dude I Do.
Okay.
This I watched myself about a week ago, I would say,
Mm.
and I've not stopped thinking about it because I think it's a flawed film. You can
Mm.
tell it barely had a budget.
Mm.
A lot of it is visibly VFXed,
Mm.
but it's very sincere. It's a
Mm.
Bombay film. I love Bombay films,
Mm.
and it's the second half is not the writing falls off a little bit in the second half, and Sikandar Kher is not given a lot to do. There's
Mm.
definitely issues with it, but I think it's got a very sincere heart to it. It does really fun things of a lot of mixed sort of filmmaking styles. There's a lot of black and white photography, then there's the color stuff, which is almost cyberpunky.
Okay.
Then it's got old timey like romance with like old timey filmmaking in black and white, and it's almost stop motion esque. So
Mm-hmm.
it does interesting things with the direction, like again set pay director hai, which is like a compliment apparently these days,
Yeah, it
which
is.
is exactly what I said about Alpha as well, that it's astonishing that I can tell that there was a director on
Yeah.
set, but this one is like
There
decent, is
was
competently made.
something more than a set. That was the other thing also.
Other thing, yeah.
Mm.
No, but this is competently made. It's not perfect, but I think after Ikkis, this is my favorite film of the year,
Mm.
definitely.
Mm.
But that is the honorable mention. The dishonorable mention is obviously just because this film tormented the living hell out of me, is Anurag Singh for Border 2, which was a waking nightmare that
संदेश से
I went
आते हैं,
through.
Chris. Come on, fifth time.
संदेश से चले जाने ही चाहिए सर, संदेश से मैंने अपना पीओ बॉक्स बंद कर दिया, नहीं चाहिए. But no, this film just ended up being a waking nightmare because we went to watch it the day before Republic Day, and then we went in the afternoon. The hall was overbooked. There was a mela essentially outside the theater, and you could only get tickets to the afternoon show, evening show, which never happens. Went back in the evening. The thing is bloody 3 hours long. It's almost
Mm.
midnight when we get out, and because it is the day before Republic Day,
Mm.
the people and the stuff was going for the parade. So
Mhm.
that means all of Delhi was my side of Delhi was blocked, which means he
Mm.
was stuck in traffic for another hour
Hmm.
having to bitch about this film before we got back home. And then at night, there was like cars going by my window playing Sande Se Aate Hain outside.
Of
So
course it
I
was.
was tormented by it for an entire day. And I just, uh, yeah, I just don't have words to explain my utter despondence at a film like that. And the rave response it got from some quarters of the population.
Oh,
But
was that
but
shocking to you? Is that shocking anymore?
I don't know, sir. I that naive optimism has not been kicked out of me yet, so it was pretty saddening.
No.
Anyways, we will move on to writing. Sir,
Mhm.
what is your dishonorable mention
I
for
mean,
writing?
I asked you if I could cheat and not like, include stuff which we discussed extensively in this
Mm,
episode of ours. So, contrary to, I guess, what people think is Mr. Imtiaz Ali's best suit, I'm going to go
yeah,
with the fact that his and Nainika Mahatani
Mehta
Mehtani's writing of Main Vaapas Aaunga is my dishonorable mention, just to clarify, not an honorable mention at all.
Yeah,
And there are lines which I have forgotten now, but when we listen to them in the hall, I have literally like put my head inside my t-shirt and wanted to barf in it because it was
Zeher,
so.
sir, Zeher.
Yeah, it was just, it's like bargain basement poetry passed off as profound, which people have bought. So, sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, this is not happening. Some of the dialogue is very TV serial adjacent, especially in the modern day section. Some of it is like annoyingly cringe with the Diljit section. And
Biswa. I'm
most
so
of
mad
the,
at Biswa.
oh yeah, because he wrote the stand-up comedy thing, right?
Stand-up bits. Yeah.
And this is not a criticism of the writing per se, but of like the subtitling. Please add subtitles for what Nasir is saying in the film. It's not his fault. He's doing the bit of actually committing to uh, capturing the ramblings of an old man. You have to do the bit of like, making a. I don't want Diljit to explain everything. I can read subtitles. Please do that. But anyways, writing wise, we discussed this extensively, so not saying more. It's garbage for me. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is also a dishonorable mention. And funnily enough, this is a film that I've not seen anyone talk about, which is kind of surprising to
Okay.
me. This is Sudeep Sharma and Abhishek Banerjee for Bandar,
Wow.
which I
Sudeep
think
Sharma.
is yeah, which I think is one half an okay prison drama and one half an extremely questionable sexual politic,
Hmm.
Me Too drama.
Hmm.
Again, the fact that Kashyap collaborated with a well-known MRA anti-Me Too activist to make this film
Hmm.
already makes me quite skeptical of it, but
Hmm.
it's really bad. Like the
Okay.
character who like we know from the very beginning
I'm
falsely
surprised
accuses
you didn't select your favorite,
what
Mr. Love
um again
and
I
social
I
media.
I think Mr. Love is at this point quaint. I'm like, it's
Okay.
okay. इनको यही आता है, यही लिखेंगे. It was fun the one time because it's ironically homoerotic, which is Sonu Ki Tito Ki Sweetie, but the
You
rest
can
of it is
convince
just
yourself
bad.
about that.
I
Yeah.
couldn't sit through Tu Jhuti, like more than like 15 minutes of Tu Jhuti Main Makar. Um, anyways, so that is I'm just like okay, it is just Love Ranjan things,
Hmm.
but no, this film really like upset. I'm like upset me is the wrong way to put it, but it like
Hmm.
annoyed me
Hmm.
because I think the prison drama. I think Prakhar had also said when you were talking to her, it's like very gritty for grittiness' sake kind of a
Hmm.
thing, but it's still better written. Again, Indrajit Sukumaran gives a wonderful performance. I'm very fond of him.
Hmm.
But the other sexual assault stuff is horrible. The character you said Ekta, this is like an Ekta Kapoor character in the middle of an
Oh.
Anurag Kashyap film. And she's like hexing him to try to ruin his life, and she wears like a massive bindi and
Oh, they make her like a
crystals, and
stereotype.
they make her like I don't think the character is supposed to be Bengali, but they make her the
I
kind
thought
of
it's supposed to be one of those films which is blaming the woman, but also sort of implicitly doing the thing where the man is also at fault, or is it just like, oh, woman bad?
No, it is kind of trying to do that. It's, I mean,
Hmm.
it's again, the man is also in the wrong part, is kind of folded into the prison drama of how he's this kind of
Hmm.
man child
Hmm.
basically,
Hmm.
who doesn't know how to face the actual world, and has, is this again waning star, so you put Bobby Deol, all that kind of stuff in it. But the woman, the character, they turn into like, she's like the Bengali witch like archetype to the, she's not, I don't think the character is supposed to be Bengali, but they give her like the massive bindi which covers half her forehead, and she buys crystals for his house, and she tries to hex him
Yeah,
into this thing, and then
this is directed by Anurag Kashyap.
Anurag
This
Kashyap,
this
yes.
sounds like a film which Ram Gopal Verma would direct in this day and age.
It is absolutely is. So I think that is why, to me, it's the discrepancy between those, and you can tell he worked with an anti-Me Too activist to
Achha.
characterize this person,
Okay.
because
As in
of the
like it's
idea of
so
these
blatantly sort of stereotypical and
stereotypical, and these women who are out, like, they can't handle rejection, and if they face
women, am I
rejection, they will
right?
ruin again, I women, am I right? Love Ranjan to me feels entirely inoffensive than when you start doing women, am I right?
Sure.
When they falsely accuse men of sexual assault, and that's your entire shtick of the film.
Hmm.
And it's not even the main focus, because then it becomes a prison drama, which is about other stuff.
Okay.
So I think that was like deep. Again, I'm not super familiar with Kashyap's work, so that is, I'm an outsider there as well. But
Hmm.
it was just really disappointing
I mean,
or
all of his
annoying
films
in
are
a
about like
sense to me.
murkiness. It's not supposed to be like this clear cut usually, but okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
it's this. Yeah, this different. Like, you can tell that discrepancy also. That it's trying to be murky, but then
Okay,
this is just like a
sure.
full kind of a
Watch
definitive
whenever you
statement.
want to watch Man Marziya. It's very good.
Yeah,
It's got a
so
great
that's why
central character and performance from Tapsi.
Tapsi
Hmm.
Pannu. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so the next is scene. So what is your pick for scene?
It's an honorable mention. Imagine. This is the
Of
only
the
other
of obviously the most interesting film of the lot.
I mean, this is like the most shocking thing ever. But yeah, so this is a very personal honorable mention actually in many ways because uh, it sort of invoked a sort of and I'm generally very anti nostalgia, but it had the sort of nostalgic effect for me in sense of reminding me that Akshay Kumar can do really good comedy, you know. He is one of our only actors who can actually make me consistently laugh in a scene. And Welcome to the Jungle, which is a abysmally directed and edited film, has a scene in it, and it's written by Neeraj Vora, the late Neeraj Vora, who's written a lot of stuff, some very bad, but also some very good, like Badshah with Shah Rukh and directed by Abbas Mustan in like 1997. But like even recent stuff, I think he made Fir Hera Fairy, he's done writing on Hera Fairy, etc., etc. But there's an entire scene where Akshay Kumar entirely leans into the immoral compass of a superstar, of someone who will sell out for anything and everything, and he is willing to do that just to get away from this dangerous situation he's gotten caught up in, and he plays it like he's done this all his life, and he plays it in such a convincing and such a nonchalant way that I think one of the joys of watching that scene for me was also the fact that he's put up this facade of an image of this superstar who cares for all these things in the media now, and this being one of those moments where it completely just goes through it with a truck. And I was just like, this is so good. This is so, like, self aware in the best way possible, self aware, self critical, in a sort of very funny way, like in the sense that you know how to make fun of yourself and you can do it really well. So yeah, that was the movie. Absolutely, then retcons that, of course, and then he becomes a hero. But that one scene where he's so committed to being absolutely horrible and being so selfish that he destroys everything in his path, I think is hilarious. And one of the
Yeah.
great reminders of Akshay Kumar being one of, if on form, being one of our best comedians in Hindi comedy, especially. So yeah,
Again,
that scene.
again, as someone who's seen Houseful 5A and B, and uh,
Bhoot
you
Bangla.
know, Bhoot Bangla in such recent and see like genuinely sit. And I am a late converted Akshay Kumar fan. Like I Khiladi Satu Shastri is one of my all-time favorite films. As much as I don't, I have a problem with like films like Hera Fairy because of the adaptations, and I love the original so much. I still think he brings a very wonderful energy to them. And it's very recently that I've allowed myself to acknowledge that I do really enjoy. Like I love Welcome to no end. So just after seeing the utter exhaustion on his face, or like the just checked outness in the other two films, just the moment that like Welcome to Jungle is so fascinating because it just clicks sometimes. Like every half an hour, it just has a moment where the stars align and it works. And Akshay's performance, even throughout, is a bit patchy, but in this moment, all the stars align and it just works. So that's definitely up there for me. I have again a scene from Baby Do Die Do. This is and this will come again because I'll talk about it in another section, but it's a sequence of Saqib Salim in the film, and
Oh
I
God.
cannot believe.
You're including
No,
your
because
thirsting section here.
yeah, but also there's a point I'm going to make. I'm going to
Okay.
articulate an academic point of like Bollywood can be normal about gay people,
Okay, that way fair.
which is something that we've spoken about on other occasions where Bollywood does not know how to be normal about gay people. But I think again, Baby Do I Do's sensibilities I find very interesting because it just has an entire sequence which is about a character who goes cruising. So they show like a scene of him cruising, and then he goes into a gay club, and there are people dancing there, and you have a male item number a la your Thursday disco kind of a thing, where Saqib Salim is a dancer and he sings a song because he's called Alpha Q, which is a pun, obviously, and it's a fun song. It's a great sequence. I was absolutely thirsting in the hall, but apart apart from Saqib Salim's like abs and his tits, apart from that.
There's too much detail, please.
I'm sorry, you can just watch the music video. There's basically nothing else in it. But I thought the sequence is just really like the normality with which it's treated, and then there's a male character who's one of the co-leads. He goes in, and there's a discussion about uh, you know like gay sex and all of these things outside even of this song sequence. And it just for once I was just like, yeah, like if this was in any other film, especially in a mainstream Bollywood film, this would be a whole comedic bit, and it will be about haha gay people so funny or whatever like that. But it's just very nonchalant and very matter of fact about it, and it uses it to do something fun. And Saqib Salim is great, and he dances really well. So that was my pick for
Fantastic. What a pick.
I can also do the thing of like masking my perversions in beautiful language, in academic language. Okay,
That wasn't it's not called masking when you're using thirsting tits and abs
that is
in
a one
three.
section. There's a proper
Okay.
academic argument as well.
I think people will just think about the three words there. But anyways, fine.
It's fine. Please do listen to to watch the music video. It's
Hmm.
fantastic. Anyways, the next is cinematography.
Which
Dhruv.
we struggled with, I think. I mean, dishonorable, you don't, in general, I think with the technical aspects of stuff, I do not want to also do the dishonorable stuff. Anyways, they
Yeah.
don't get, the honorable ones only don't get recognition. So dishonorable to bekar mein, why would you even like, dump on which we will end up, but whatever.
Of course.
Uh, but I think both section we'll talk about that section deserves a different episode altogether. I think just as a category, as a technical element, which I think is a forgotten art in Bollywood at this point.
Absolutely.
But anyway, cinematography, Remy Dalai for Tu Ya Main
Yeah.
is one of my biggest surprises of this year, actually. But this is directed by Bijoy Nambiar. But Reni Dalai, I just remember a sort of vibrance to the aesthetic of this, and of course, it's a melding of sort of social media, like the hyperactivity, kineticism, and sort of bright colored sort of live projected on social media, and then sort of contrasted against this grit, grime, and sort of grunge almost of your genre film. And I think what the film like the even when I remember it, there's a sort of very distinctive color palette and like a sort of distinctive uh, distance created between what the world is for Shania Kapoor's character and
Adarsh
Adarsh
Gaurav's.
Gaurav's character. The whole first half of that film is essentially a class disparity sort of love story between like two people belonging to different social classes, and you know what, they do look like they belong to two different social classes. And yes, I know this is like patting people on like for very little, but there's a distinct difference in where Adarsh Gaurav comes from and how that place looks and feels versus where he meets Shania Kapoor and how their relationship then transpires. It's interesting. Actually, again, this is all coming back to me as I'm speaking about it. I've not made notes on this. So, credit the
Yeah.
movie for this because I do remember bits and pieces of it quite a bit. But you can say the second half where they go has a sort of nice melding of grit, grunge, and being extremely sort of colorful still with the. It's not vibrant because it is sort of dark blue and like really muddy. And I wish the film was. I'm pretty sure it was UA, but if it was A, it
Yeah.
could have really sort of leaned into the sort of blood, guts, and all of that. But decent visual effects also for whatever that matters. For I'm creeped out by
Crocodiles.
crocodiles in any case, but yeah, they did look pretty creepy. And yeah, it's just a handsomely made, slick genre thriller, which I think is Bijoy Nambia's thing only. Bijoy Nambia is usually known as a very slick, stylish
Yeah.
filmmaker. And yeah, this sort of has a very, it's not a memorable aesthetic as such, but it's got a distinctive one, at least in the sense that you get an idea of a particular world which is evoked, and then, you feel like you at least have been transported into a sort of different uh, world for some time. So yeah,
Yeah.
honorable mention also, yeah.
But also again, one credit to Nambiar there that half doesn't come off as cringe, like the social media half.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's been a
That's
big
the better
issue with a
half
lot
for
of.
me.
It is a better for me as well. I think
Mm.
the romance is done quite well, but
Yeah.
the stylistic choices of like you've got a Spotify event, you've got these reels that are imposed
Mm.
on the screen and all of those things. Recent films that have done it, you think about your Controls or other films of these your
Mm.
Call Me Bay and all of these shows and films that engage with the social media world.
Mm.
I think they veer into like old man raving at kind of
Yeah.
uh, trying to figure
I
out
think
what the youngins are up to.
this has the energy of what you would expect from it without being. And I think Adarsh Gaurav in his role is very also believable, no, in the sense
Yeah.
that he makes the cringiness also very much his selling point
Yeah.
is a slight bit of that cringe only.
And
So
Shania is able to, again, Shania, shocker, half decent nepo
I know.
actor,
Hmm.
but Shania is able to play the straight man in comparison to
Yeah.
him to bring a certain, so you got a
Hmm.
great contrast between his flamboyance and class status and her mutedness and
Yeah,
class status
it
and all
also
that.
features one dialogue I'd actually remember in a good light, which is the Gully Boy se Sairat love story thing he talks about, where he goes from thinking he's in Gully Boy and then
Yeah.
realizes that he's in Sairat. But anyways, yeah,
So,
solid work. Hmm.
mine, I don't know if this is an honorable mention or a dishonorable
I think
mention.
it's
This is just a
dishonorable only because you
sure,
remember it for
but
all the wrong reasons.
sure, but I would say this is the most memorable mention or the
Just because it
one
has lights, it doesn't mean that it's memorable or not memorable.
is memorable insofar as like something about it visually looked different than like films not looking like films or films looking like passable competent films.
Hmm.
And that is Debujit Ray for Chand Mera Dil. Now, this is the film directed by Vivek Soni, starring Ananya Pandey and Laksh, and it's a very interesting film. Only insofar as it's got a nice concept, but its execution is quite poor. And like for the first time, I was watching like a Dharma film long time and thinking, yeah, like this could go somewhere. Obviously, they have no idea how to take it anywhere, and Ananya Pandey is not good, and Lakshya is not particularly good. And but and the stylistic choices are strange. Like the climactic argument between the two actors happens when they're framed with a shaky cam and then they're in front of like a pair of windows, and the windows are dancing, basically all
How
sorts of
wonderful.
things while these two are trying to have a conversation. But there are like stylistic choices that are memorable. Like there's one shot where Lakshya has left Ananya Pandey or something like that, and they do like he's like on a bike or something, and they do a close up of his eyes, and you get the lights like cross him by in a
This
really
is like
nice kind of.
flashy. See, you mean it's flashy.
It's flashy. It's very showy. It's very try hard, and
Hmm.
it feels like Sony's trying to compensate for the messy script by
Hmm.
over directing the living hell out of the film.
Hmm.
But like for example, there's a problem now with Bollywood that they just can't do a romance, so it just has to be like a musical montage, and it has to. So, but it's done interestingly. So there's a song called Khasiyat, which is the one nice song in the film, and
Hmm.
it's like this guy, Lakshya's character just wears the same color every day that Ananya Pandey is wearing. And so you
Hmm.
get the whole sequence of they never interact, but he just like walks behind her
Hmm.
wearing the same colored outfits. You get this like a 360 shot of like the center of their college.
Hmm.
And there's multiple versions of them walking around in different colored outfits. So there's some stylistic intent to the
Hmm.
cinematography, which I thought was
How
interesting. So
wonderful.
that's my
I mean, that's the standard we should set, aren't we? Yeah. I mean, that's the way it should be.
sure, sir.
Some intent.
Next, some intent. Next, we are on to the real questionable category, which I
There is
think
no,
every
it's not a category. We've defined this. It's the department which is on consistent strike.
is either on strike or on vacation. These are the
Yeah.
only two possible answers. But
Hmm.
editing, sir, what is your pick?
My dishonorable mention is Arif Sheikh, and you can add it for any movie actually at this point. Apparently, he edits everything in Bollywood. But I'm selecting O Romeo because that film is interminably long, especially the second half, which never ends. I was just like, where are we going with this thing? I mean, I'm not even getting into sort of individual breakdown of editing shots and all that because this is also a very clumsily sort of the action in this is very it's badly stylized as opposed to and Vishal Bhardwaj can do good stylized. You can see Kamine for that.
Yeah.
But anyways, Arif Sheikh, just- it's not even his problem at this point. I don't know what editors are doing. I don't know what directors are doing with their own films. Like, can they not cut out bits of it? Can they just not look beyond their writing? There is no, and this is a critique of the writing also, but also the editing. There is no need for Oromio to be this non-linear a film. Streamline it. The editor, or can the editor please come and tell Vishal sir that please sir, this would maybe work better if it moves in you know s- normal flow. Please maintain that. You do not need
Sir, the biggest
non-narrative.
success of the last 2 years is a combined 7-hour film where the editor is
Where the
asked to
basic.
put every bit of footage that
Hmm.
was ever shot, conceptualized, or even considered into one
Yeah,
unshapen blob of film.
yeah.
I can't even blame, BB and Arif Sheikh that much also
I
for
mean,
it
no,
if
you
this is the
can blame
standard
him.
of
He's
the,
been a better.
obviously.
He's been too good a filmmaker for something like this to pass through. And
Absolutely.
be exhausting. A Vishal Bhardwaj film, and I would say close to a die-hard Vishal Bhardwaj film. A fan, sorry. Like I was still hoping after hearing everything bad about it that I will not mind it and I'll find good in it. And I do think the opening 30-40 minutes of it are decent. And I think 30 Remedy is quite good. Having said that, it just has no idea of how to move a narrative beyond a point. It just jumps back and forth unnecessarily. It's just a anonymous. It's both anonymously edited and it just feels like someone has forgotten to edit chunks of it, which is actually not just a comment limited to Oromio. It can be like extended to other films also. I would say even I think the editing even in a decent film like Ikkis is iffy. I don't think it
Yeah.
knows when to sort of juggle through the time. Again, this is not just that's why it becomes tricky with editing because part of it you can say is the editing's issue, part of it you can say is a screenplay issue, and of course the director's input. But like the way in which you move between sections is iffy. Like they don't feel like they sort of, meld together or have a sort of synchronicity in which, again, I think the better or one of the better uses of musical montage is probably in Tu Ya Main only, in the section where they are doing the love story there. So yeah, to me, very. It's not even a singling out. There's an editing issue in Bollywood, and I don't just mean in terms of reduce the lengths, which you do of these films, which all of them are over long. I mean, just in general, there is a fundamental issue in assembling a film, I think,
Yeah.
which feels like something people should go and watch in the cinema. So yeah, but yeah, that's my editing dumping, I guess.
Yeah, I mean my picks. I mean, there's the like below the belt picks of like obviously we said Welcome to the Jungle's editors on vacation, so like what's the
Yeah.
point of blaming
Hmm.
him? But I think my pick is a little bit strange because I've heard compliments of the editing of this film, but I thought the basic like scene to scene edit or like shot by shot editing is
Hmm.
bad. Is Danish Shastri for Happy Patel,
Hmm.
one of the very god awful films I've seen this year.
Hmm.
Painfully unfunny. I'm sorry, I'm not a cringe millennial who thinks we
Hmm.
like. I'm generally not like super unlike. I don't mind Veer Das. I think he's fine.
Hmm.
Not my cup of tea. And I'm someone who likes stand-up comedy. Dhruv very famously doesn't.
Yeah,
I
but I don't.
enjoy
But then I don't watch like Happy
talent.
Birthday. Yeah.
So I went to watch it thinking it might be good because Veer Das is this like again I don't mind him, not
I
particularly
find him
fan,
funny
but
in Delhi Belly, for whatever it's worth.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's again I've not seen Delhi Belly, so I don't
Hmm.
have the reference point there. But with this film, I thought like I first of all horrifyingly unfunny film. I was just holding my head in my hands for the entire runtime, and I went to my dad for it, and I'm like, "What have I done to him? I'm so sorry." I was sincerely apologetic,
Don't
and
worry, your dad and me will collaborate someday.
of course.
Hmm.
And it was so bad that he who really like does not like commenting on the technical aspects of film because
Hmm.
that's not his forte. He was like the like basic editing looks bad at this. Like the short reverse shots are not
What
very
are they?
competent. I don't know, sir. The basic continuity isn't maintained between shots. It's
What is
just
that?
I don't know, sir.
But
But
see, Chris, I'm going to say that in like in comedy films, it is more of a fast and loose sort of, especially in comedy films which
the
rely a lot on sort of
fast
in no,
fast
but
and loose is not an excuse for not being
I
basically
understand that.
competent, sir.
But there's the comedy filmmaker who wants to make a comedy film, and there's a comedy filmmaker who wants to make his comedy work on screen in a sort of like he doesn't care about the film, he cares about his comedy. So वो
Again,
filmic
sir, you
aspect
can't
doesn't
say
go.
that to me because I am brought up on Malayalam comedies,
Okay.
which are not only very funny, but they're very competently well
हाँ तो
directed
so मेरा reference
films.
point for this high watermark for me is always Edgar Wright with
Sure,
comedy. हाँ, because
sure. So,
he's a visual like he uses film in the best way possible to communicate his comedy also.
sure,
Yeah.
but like you can't make a stand-up bit into an extended some 2 hour something film and then have it not be competently directed and then have useless cameos in it
He directed
and
it or
then
what?
that I don't know. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'll have to check. But have like painfully useless cameos of Imran Khan who comes for about 30 seconds just because oh Delhi Belly and all
Hmm.
of that kind of stuff, and then
Editing, sir,
expect me to.
editing.
So the edit I'm saying is that the film has structural issues. That's another
Hmm.
matter. I'm saying short by short editing, lack of competence, this bad is also a bit shocking. So that was my thing of
Wonderful.
Happy Twitter. Yeah. The final category for us is music. So
Oh, I didn't note this down.
you know your answer. Just go for it.
What was it?
You wanted to bitch about cocktail, dude. God.
Oh, I didn't want to bitch about it. I was just like, Chris asked me music, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Like everything is bad. I could put, to be fair, just because I watched it recently, I could easily put the background score of Assi because that thing is a disaster and a half. But yeah, Cocktail 2, I think I'll just put it simply on the basis of have you listened to the first Cocktail soundtrack? Like, if you're gonna name your film Cocktail 2, you better bloody deliver on a half decent soundtrack at least. Movie, you forget, movie is bundle in any case. Kriti Sanan Innocent, which happens most of the time, I suppose, at this point. But soundtrack is Chris has listened to it, so he can probably more talk about it more. I tried listening to Mashuka in my car, and
Ashoka.
I listened to it once, and I never wanted to listen to it again. So that is that. And then why would I listen to Bandhu fake version when I can listen to Bandhu real version. So, and they try to
Bandhu DJ Chetas remix
and they
equivalent
try to
kind.
sell it off as some meta move, which is like as embarrassing as kya kamal hai
कमाल है.
from Main Vaapas Aaunga. But anyways, like all that stuff is just gimmicky garbage. But like the music is just so anonymous in this. It's badly used, which I don't think even the first one uses it particularly greatly, but it's
Yeah.
very anonymously used. It's again that tourist video, like tourist Instagram filtered sort of music video feel it has. You can barely see people doing anything in the music video itself. So that's the shooting editing of the music, which is the issue. Just the music is just, I don't remember a single song from Cocktail. Like one of the MVPs of the first film was the music. So, come on,
Which
like,
again, it's a Preetham album. Like this, if this was a Sachin Jigar album, I would get it. If it was
hmm,
a Tanish Bakshi album, I would like Bandhu 2.0 sounds like a Tanish Bakshi remix.
hmm.
But to say that this is a Preetham album is like, again, I have listened to it a couple of times. It's downright offensive to say that it's a Preetham
Hey,
album. Like
I
the
will.
only
For
song.
Preetham has 4, 5 years of bad albums. I can forgive on account of one album I still listen to very regularly. So, thank you, Preetham, for and Anurag Basu for Metro in the know. And now you can continue to get paychecks and deliver garbage. That's fine.
Anyways, I think the only track I thought was mildly memorable is Leher, which is
What
the
is
whole
that?
Kriti Sanon, the one that keeps coming up, no, the Milte Nahi Hum Agar, the Shahid Kapoor Kriti Sanon arc. Where it's like the very male gazy one, no, where she's
Ah, I
in
was
the
about to say.
bathing
I was
suit.
about to say when the camera is zooming in too much into someone's posterior, and
Indeed.
that is not Shahid Kapoor, of course, because Love Ranjan
Yeah,
and
so,
Shahid
but
Kapoor.
and apparently Homi Adajania, who not mentioned at all.
He doesn't. It's a Love Ranjan film. Yeah.
Again, I think a Lavanjan film would be funnier, but anyways, but
This is completely on
my
Chris. Huh? No one. I do not even invoke me when this stupid complaint about Love Ranjan is
one
made.
film, sir, one film I like, which I think is ironically funny. Anyways, but mine is again an honorable mention that is Baby Do I Do. It's got first of all, it's got a soundtrack with a
I
personality.
have to warn people again. Chris
Uh,
liking a film soundtrack is very dodgy.
Discrediting,
Yeah.
obviously. I mean, I my last year's favorite soundtrack was Badass Ravi Kumar. I have been Dil Ke
You
Taanme
you
Mein.
then I think where we are headed.
Sure, but
Hmm.
the Baby Do I Do soundtrack has got a personality to it. First of all, that's by Arjun Iyer. It's also got a lot of interesting instrumentation to it. Like one song which I thought it's like the classic, the nonsense Bollywood songs where like the lyrics are like whatever, and that's the joy of it.
I don't know,
And
sir, because I like to listen to Bollywood songs with sensical lyrics.
no, sir, I listen to the item numbers and the like, Chala Una Nainu Se Ban Re and all that kind of comedy songs. This has got one which is called Mutual Funds, where the tagline, the chorus is mutual funds are subject to market risk, which is like the
How
TV ad. And so,
wonderful.
but it's done with the band, like Shadi band instrumentation. So you've got the Shehnai and the drums and all of that of a classic
Yeah.
wedding band. So that has got Alpha Q is a really good song. Then it's got again some like those classic Bombay tracks, and which I'm again very fond of. So it's the one soundtrack. Again, I think some of the songs are not my cup of tea. I think they're good songs, not songs I would listen to
Hmm.
regularly. But it's like a soundtrack with a purpose
Hmm.
and a personality, which is not
How wonderful.
ruined by the film.
Again.
A la Main Vaapas Aaunga and
Yeah, मैं वापस
ARR.
आऊंगा outside of the film, I think has 2 or 3 really good songs.
Really
So
good songs
yeah.
on it. Dheere Dheere. My favorite is Tere Paas
तेरे
Mein.
पास में, तेरे साथ में,
Uh,
तेरे पास में, तेरे
Tere
पास में.
Paas Mein.
Hmm.
Kya Kamal Hai is unlistenable, even if the
I mean,
song
that's
is fine.
probably
But
no,
like
but I think that's probably because
because
of
of
the
the
vid.
picturization, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying. Like that, it's a mid ARR album. That's another matter. But it's
Yeah, but I think if you
actively.
put it in a good film, I think it becomes a good ARR album.
I would still say it's a mid ARR
Okay.
album. I mean, I still find the Tere Ishq Mein soundtrack more memorable than I do
I only listened to one song
this.
from that, and that is
I've
my
listened to
movie
that album
apparently. So
a couple of times.
yeah.
But like the Tere Ishq Mein line is even that one melody is
Tere
much more
ishq,
memorable
yeah,
to
that one.
Yeah, क्या से क्या
I'm so
हुआ.
excited when you talk about this movie.
Sure, sir. But with that,
No,
on
we
that
didn't even
note,
talk about a film. You just mentioned it as accused for me.
what it is a you had a film also. You didn't write down the
Yeah,
category, so I didn't pick one.
it is there.
But oh, karo sir, I have to pick one. Let me
Yeah,
pick
accused by
one. Go, it's a
Anubhuti
film.
Kashyap. So this is our misogyny allegation for this year, like, cemented essentially. Anyways, I'm not even
Sure.
blaming her. I've not seen any of her other work, so I don't know. Apparently, her show was good with Gulshan
Okay.
Devaiya, which I've not seen. It's like a dark comedy, apparently. Anyways,
Okay.
this is in keeping with Hermetics Entertainment. Whoever touches it basically forgets what they do, like basic competency almost. Uh,
Hmm.
Konkana Sen is not the best actor in something which is already shocking enough, I think.
Yeah.
And the reason she's not the best is because she's not that good, which is another shock.
Yeah.
Anyways, abysmal movie. Uh, which I think Chris only described it better with the whole tar and after the hunt nonsense, which
Yeah,
it
it's like if you
is.
put disclaimer after the hunt and tar into a mixie and make a chutney out of it, you get.
You make a chutney, taste it, and then want to like throw up.
Yeah,
Let's make
because
it.
it also then the ending where Kongana Sen Sharma turns to camera and then lectures you about like about something
But
feminism not good,
this
men,
I
women.
think Chris, we should do this for we should do a reel or a sort of post or I don't know an episode for films which have these moments of
Or like Jawan and all of those things.
of breaking the fourth wall, and we should select some awesome stuff. And I mean, of course, we have this, as you said, in Konkana. But this isn't even awesome because it's kind of tied to the whole narrative self importance garbage it has.
Yeah.
My picks would be something like Hai Jawani To Ishq Hona Hai, where Mrunal Thakur in a courtroom goes all feminism on.
Which is obviously my with I will go there, but my honorable pick is Baby Do I Do after Ricky. Ricky is my favorite film of the year. Baby Do I Do is the second, which I've already spoken about.
Hmm,
So I'll put a dishonorable pick here instead because I've already said about that film, and Baby Do I Do, if you can, please do watch it. It's
hmm,
still in the halls. Otherwise, when it comes out on streaming, I think nobody's seen it. It's made
hmm,
barely anything, but I think it's a fun time.
hmm.
But my dishonorable mention, where I was just like, and the person individual in front of me is having a great time, and I am like,
Great time.
and I am on the verge of tears. Is Hai Jawani To Ishq Hona Hai. Please continue, sir. What did Unal Thakur do in that wonderful scene?
That was the feminism lecture, right? Which she
No,
then
no.
revokes when the film revokes later on, where she's
She
like she
as
grows
in
a
the scene.
conscience,
No, sir. She has a child. She which is all weird pro-life propaganda which Bollywood has been running for
which
some
is this
reason
and
in the last
alpha
couple
both,
of
right?
this Alpha and Chand Mera Dil. Where
Oh,
she's just like,
okay.
I have a feeling, which is sure. But there's a sequence where Mrinal Thakur is in a court and she walks slowly towards the camera as it zooms in
No, and the
onto her.
camera does a Spielberg. Like it like genuinely just like dollies in like by rising up. I know this I have to send this clip to Varun or someone who's a Spielberg fan. Huh? Anyway, sorry. Sorry, the people who are on the podcast are our biggest listeners, so my reference points are those. But no, I mean it literally does that, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Because
And
David
she talks
Dhawan's
about how
"Main
she's a.
Tera Hu, Main Tera Hero" also has this moment. So I'm saying we should do a compilation of all this, where it's uh,
Definitely.
like a fun, like movies that are so inappropriately out of touch with their own ideas that they have this garbagely tone deaf moment of
But no, Mrinal Thakur
lecturing.
talks about how she's an independent woman now. She's not ready to have children, and her husband is too horny and keeps trying to jump her, and that is
Yeah.
ruining her life. And immediately after she gets pregnant, and then she comes back and says, "भाड़ में गया feminism." मैं मैं हैंडल कर लूंगी. I will work from home. करना बड़ा पड़ता है. I want to be your
Yeah, you
wife
really
and the
enjoyed this
mother
movie,
of your
Chris. I
child.
saw you laughing a lot while it.
Sir, in pain, sir. मेरे को रोना आ रहा
Why
था,
you didn't
sir.
like the amazing, amazing transphobic, homophobic
I was going
skit
to say.
they had
So
in the middle of it all.
apart from absolutely insulting Chunari with like again a god awful
I have
DJ
to
Chekas
admit,
ass
I have
remix.
listened to that song a decent bit.
You have no right to shame me over listening to
That's probably because the
composition.
original is very catchy, yaar.
So listen to the original. No, why the hell are you listening to the remix?
I don't know. I just saw it on my YouTube and I was like, yeah, sure.
You have no rights to question my taste in music ever again,
I'm
okay?
not saying it's a good
But
song.
it's okay. I've also never said these are good songs.
Yeah,
I've
but I've
listened to
listened to
them.
by my listen to it a bunch means I've listened to it thrice. I've not listened to it on a loop like you do.
Neither have I. I have not
Nadania ka
either.
soundtrack you haven't listened 2 months after.
I think Nadania ka soundtrack is good. That's
Okay,
another
fine.
matter.
Get back to this
Uh,
garbage.
but no, there's this scene where it is apparently if man hold handbag he gay. Which is just the scene where because he's got obviously got two love interests because that's Varun Dhawan's kink apparently, but he's got Pooja Hegde's handbag and Mrunal Thakur is around the
It's
house.
garam
So
masala.
it's garam masala, but it's like Manish Paul puts on the
Yeah.
handbag and then turns like mere andar ki aurat or some
Ah.
nonsense like that he says, and
Oh,
so
I have to
he's just
inform the person who I know who knows Manish Paul about this.
yeah, that's what I was saying. I know because I told you to give
Yeah.
them compliments when he was good in Sani Sanskari ki Tulsi Kumari, and he's horrible here. So please let them know.
Hey, I mean, who's
But
good in here? Who's good here?
nobody's good
Did
here.
we laugh once?
But
Even I laughed once.
yeah, the one which is
The
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 most childish
the
jokes. Dil
हाँ,
dil
दिल
dil
वालों की
dilli
दिल्ली
hai
and लंदन वालों की yeah
no Dilli hai dil
दिल्ली
walon ki London
लंदन
hai.
है
Yeah. But no, just that kind like there's just so much going on in that film. The pro-life propaganda, the juggling
yeah
of
yeah
I
David
don't know
Dhawan
what
really
puja.
thinks about all this.
Again, Jimmy Shergill doing Jimmy Shergill is probably the least offensive thing about the film.
Yeah yeah
Mauni Roy is fun, I would say.
yeah I
She's
thought she was
probably the
when
best
she
part of
came
the
in she
film.
was probably yeah the better one of the better parts of the
But
film.
the whole him pretending to commit suicide and they are talking about you liked you think that the second half was better, which is again
Yeah,
I
I
don't
said
know
the
what you're
second half
talking
had setups and payoffs.
which I did not think it had. But anyways, Chunky Pandey, no, in it.
Yeah,
Which
he's
again, Chunky Pandey has an actually competent role in Baby Dood I Do, which is
oh
astonishing. He's
wow
quite well used.
he doesn't okay so it's
But
not like one of those where his chaddi gets stolen in Tismar Khan.
no, he plays a patriarch. He's called Papa in the film, so
Wow,
he's pretty
that's
decent.
okay.
But you've got Chunky Pandey playing the doctor, and there's shenaniganry happening, and I cannot find
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like
This is
I'm
the
just like,
type of film which probably your uncle would see, uncle who's like 35 and be like, "अरे ये तो मजेदार picture थी बहुत."
which was the
Uh,
kitty party behind us? A bunch of
yes, they were
aunties
really enjoying the
sitting.
film, and I mean,
They were
I meant it
clapping,
derogatorily
laughing.
when I was talking about the uncle, but in this case, it's not derogatory. They were enjoying the movie a lot, huh?
Proper.
हाँ हाँ.
They were laughing,
As
clapping,
was the
geeking
hall
over
for
it.
Welcome to Jungle, and which is the movie which we definitely liked more than Hai Jawani. So
Which was full of a bacha party. So we have seen films with all sorts of
yeah,
audiences.
and now Chris is
Uh,
gonna go for Dhamal 4.
I am not going. Do not slander me like that. I will not be going for it.
No, it's
I
a
might
kids
watch it on a
film. You're
camp
the
rent.
target audience. Come on.
Sir, I'm not a child. Come on.
I said you're a kid, not a child. Anyways,
Anyways, on that note, which is through slandering me for no reason,
yeah, no reason at all. Just seven
no reason
fucking
at
films have
all.
been seen in the
Five,
fucking
sir.
hall
You
at
keep
10 a.m.
inflating.
in the morning. And
Yeah,
imagine,
two films
the
you saw
one,
at 10.
sorry, I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to bitch about this. The one film Chris slept during was Backrooms. Not any of
Once.
this. Not any
For
of
like,
this, though.
which was right after Cocktail 2, which I was fully awake for. Anyways, yes, that was our Meteor
And I'm
roundup.
sorry, I mean, I believe this part is not even necessary, but I will have to release it simply because it's the only thing that justifies me watching all this. So yeah, it's getting released.
Otherwise you're going to lose this footage and be like, Dhruv has to live with the fact that he went for all of this out of his own
Yeah.
volition.
Yeah, I don't even mind if the Anas section doesn't come out actually. I need this to come out.
Anyways, but yeah, we have a whole other episode planned on Sutlej, hopefully sometime soon, because there's a lot to be talked about there, and we have differing opinions there as well.
Yeah, I mean, but
Um,
we do. I mean, whoever's watched it does appreciate it at least to some extent.
Yes, I think all of us, I mean, those who have seen it agree that it's an important film, but at a filmic level, how does it function and storytelling and all of those technical aspects? And there's a whole discourse about its politics, which I don't think, at least I am not particularly well informed on. So hopefully, the folks we talk to then will be relatively more,
Yeah,
so we can get some insight on
these
that as
folks
well.
are generally the ones who are better informed about these things. Yeah.
These things in general, yeah. So we'll link Anas's work as well, but you
Yeah.
know where to find the links to our stuff. Thank you so much for listening, and khatam.